Chapter 164. Whoosh, whoosh, the sound of something piercing through the air could be heard. Including Suyu, several figures flew toward the crystal spiritual flower at the same time. The value of this item was comparable to a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir. To Suyu, it was a divine item that could cleanse his soul. Among the competitors, Suyu's speed was comparable to a 5th-level peak Holy King. He took the lead. In the blink of an eye, he was within 100 feet of the crystal flower. Scram! The 5th-level peak Holy King's eyes were filled with greed. Seeing Suyu compete, he let out a cold grunt. Without another word, he struck towards Suyu. A ball of light yellow spirit energy condensed into an eyeball-sized ball and struck Suyu's chest. Just as it was about to reach Suyu, the ball suddenly exploded. When it exploded, it created a violent wave of energy that struck Suyu. Caught off guard, Suyu was pushed back several feet by the wave of energy, falling behind the 5th-level peak Holy King. Ha ha! I, Jiang Rong, will accept this great merit. Jiang Rong was elated. If he could give the crystal spiritual flower to the faction, he could at least exchange it for a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir. At that time, breaking through to 6th-level Holy King would not be far. Creak, however, just as Jiang Rong was about to grab the crystal spiritual flower, a crystal-clear silk thread pierced through the air and entangled the crystal spiritual flower. Immediately after, it quickly pulled the crystal spiritual flower away. Jiang Rong was slightly stunned. He wanted to grab the silk thread, but a few bolts of extremely cold energy attacked his back. Jiang Rong's expression changed. He changed from offense to defense, his fingers forming a claw as he grabbed at the incoming cold energy. Creak! The cold energy entered his body, causing Jiang Rong's palm to feel a stinging pain. He hurriedly revolved his spirit energy to expel the cold energy from his body. Looking at it, it was actually an arrow weaved from thin ice threads. Creak! The arrow was dispersed by a palm strike, safely turning into a thin thread and returning to Suyu's chest. Jiang Rong was bewildered. What is that? Immediately after, Jiang Rong's expression turned gloomy as he stared at the crystal spiritual flower in Suyu's palm. Snatching my item? Who gave you the guts? Jiang Rong's eyes flashed. He took a few steps forward, once again condensing a light yellow ball in his palm and attacking Suyu. An item comparable to a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir was worth fighting over. Whoosh! At this moment, the rest of the 5th-level Holy Kings caught up. One of the 5th-level peak Holy Kings shouted, "Junior Jiang, stop!" Hearing this, Jiang Rong's eyes were filled with a hint of fear as he snapped, "Lin Ming, are you trying to help an outsider?" Lin Ming was 28 or 29 years old. He was dressed in a scholarly robe, and he had a scholarly air about him. His words were calm, and he gave off a feeling that he stood aloof from worldly affairs. Cupping his fists, Lin Ming said in a scholarly manner, "It's not that I'm biased. I just don't want the two of you to be affected by external matters. Our group is the weakest of the group. If we do not unite now, we will encounter danger, and our casualties will be disastrous," Lin Ming reasoned. Jiang Rong snorted coldly. "He's an outsider, yet he stole my credit. He's the one who hurt our relationship." However, Lin Ming shook his head slightly. "Junior Jiang, have you forgotten the rules of the Abyss of Wudong? During the excavation, the treasure belongs to whoever finds it first. Outsiders are not allowed to fight for it." The people behind Lin Ming also nodded their heads. Among the 9 of them, Lin Ming was the strongest. Naturally, he was the leader. At the same time, Lin Ming was friendly and rarely bullied others. On the other hand, Jiang Rong had a domineering personality and was not well liked. Under such circumstances, Lin Ming was naturally the leader. Seeing that everyone was like that, Jiang Rong did not dare say anything. He glared at Suyu fiercely. "Remember, don't do it again. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." "Alright, everyone, start collecting the materials. Everyone will rely on their own abilities. Remember, no fighting. After Lin Ming's words, the 5th level Holy Kings charged in all directions excitedly, snatching the herbs. Su Yu secretly relied on his divine ice threads to snatch the 5 blue flowers used to make top-grade marrow cleansing elixirs. As for the herbs used to make middle-grade marrow cleansing elixirs, he did not interfere. The benefits could not be snatched by him alone. After 2 hours, everyone had a harvest. Senior Lin, this is great. I can exchange these herbs for 10 middle-grade marrow cleansing elixirs. I have enough resources for the next month's training. A female disciple was panting, her face filled with excitement. Lin Ming smiled gently. His gaze fell on Su Yu, who had a calm expression. He took a step forward. Congratulations, Junior Su, your harvest is great. Su Yu turned back, cupped his fists and smiled. Thank you, Senior Lin, for helping me out. It's nothing. Lin Ming smiled. I also want to remind Junior Su that according to the rules of the Abyss of Wudong, all the treasures you obtain must be handed over to the faction. You are not allowed to keep them for yourself. Junior Su, remember this. Su Yu smiled. Thank you for the reminder. I understand. Deep down, Su Yu did not care. There were many loopholes in the rules. If Su Yu reported to the faction that he had lost the herbs, what could the faction do to him? As if sensing Su Yu's thoughts, Lin Ming smiled mysteriously. Usually, with the team leader watching over us, everything we obtain has to be handed over to the team leader. But now we are separated from the team leader and there is no one watching over us. As he spoke, he glanced at a place not far away. There were a few disciples there, secretly swallowing the herbs and cultivating on the spot. The rest of the disciples chose to ignore them, secretly swallowing the herbs themselves. Without the team leader watching over them, there were very few opportunities for them to obtain valuable herbs. Who would be willing to expose each other? Thank you for the reminder, Senior Lin. Su Yu revealed a grateful smile. He had a good impression of Lin Ming. Lin Mingfeng smiled lightly. I didn't remind you of anything. It was Junior Brother who comprehended it himself. After saying this, Lin Ming floated away. Su Yu's eyes flashed. With his back facing the crowd, he swallowed the crystal spiritual flower on the spot. Splash! The spiritual flower melted the moment it entered his mouth. A ball of cool spiritual liquid moisturized his throat. It was like a clear mountain spring flowing into his lungs. It was cold and indescribably comfortable. The spiritual liquid seeped into his soul, gently cleansing it. Layers of hidden impurities were continuously cleansed under the effect of the spiritual liquid. The impurities turned into gray smoke and dissipated from the top of Su Yu's head. Ethereal and graceful, the wonderful and comfortable feeling of the soul reverberated within his soul. Only the spiritual liquid of the divine nine-dragon cauldron had such a shocking effect. Now, a precious crystal spiritual flower was comparable to a cleansing of the divine nine-dragon cauldron's spiritual liquid. His soul once again experienced a drastic change. The secret soul technique Magical Moon Eyes had previously been stuck at stage 1 lower class. There was always an insurmountable barrier between it and the upper class. But now, with his ethereal soul, he had easily stepped into stage 1 upper class. His eyes, which were tightly shut, emitted a golden glow like the bright moon. Su Yu was elated. His secret soul technique had finally achieved a breakthrough. But what made Su Yu even more surprised was that the remaining spiritual liquid, when blended into his bloodline, had a slight cleansing effect on his physical body. Layers of silver-gray impurities were excreted from his pores. At the same time, his bloodline had previously been unable to absorb the precipitated effects of the elixirs because he had consumed a powerful universe treasure. But now, his bloodline was rapidly improving and his bloodline returned to normal. The precipitated effects of the elixirs were quickly absorbed. His cultivation level was like the thirsty earth greedily devouring the effects of the elixirs. In a breath's time, his cultivation level skyrocketed. When all the precipitated effects of the elixirs were completely absorbed, Su Yu's cultivation level silently made a breakthrough to 4th level peak Holy King. Abundant and powerful spirit energy permeated his body. The unprecedented power made Su Yu feel high-spirited. He had finally achieved a breakthrough. 4th level peak Holy King. At this moment, everyone had consumed the appropriate amount of herbs and were satisfied. Let's go and meet up with the team. Lin Ming led the 9 people forward. There was only one canyon that led to the outside world. After passing through the canyon, they would be able to leave the valley and enter the next destination. Perhaps they would be able to meet up with the team at the next destination. The group walked to the front of the canyon. It was pitch black inside and a chilly wind blew. It was the complete opposite of the warm spring valley. Everyone be careful. There is a bloody stench in the wind. Lin Ming's gaze was grave. The group carefully sensed and indeed detected a faint bloody stench. There was no doubt that there were ferocious creatures within the dark canyon. This canyon is very strange. Why is it that when I circulate my spirit energy, I still can't see within 100 meters? Jiang Rong's expression was grave. In the darkness of the abyss of Wudong, he could still see within a range of 300 meters. But in this strange canyon, it was difficult for his gaze to penetrate 100 meters. I can also only see within 100 meters. There might be an unknown spell in this canyon. Everyone, be careful and do not leave the team. Lin Ming's expression was grave. Cautiously, the group finally stepped into the darkness. Once they entered, a sinister aura assaulted them. The bloody stench was getting thicker. Halfway through their journey, it was as if they were in a pool of blood. But the ferocious creatures that they had imagined did not appear. Su Yu frowned slightly. His vision was not affected. Under his observation, other than darkness, there were no ferocious creatures within the dark canyon. But where did the bloody stench come from? Suddenly, Jiang Rong, who was beside him, said in surprise, "What is that?" Following his gaze, the group was surprised to see that there was a giant blood-red mushroom growing on the stone wall of the canyon. Drops of bright red liquid were dripping from the body of the giant blood-red mushroom. It was this mushroom that was emitting the bloody stench. Lin Ming was slightly stunned. After a moment, he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. "Oh my God, could it be? Psychic bloody mushroom?" "What? Psychic bloody mushroom? It is rumored to be a treasure of the universe that grows in the land of extreme Een. After consuming it, it can allow one to possess spiritual eyes?" The disciples behind him revealed a shocked expression. The psychic bloody mushroom was a rare treasure that could allow one to possess spiritual eyes. After consuming it, one could see in the dark like it was daytime. It was extremely magical. Even within the faction, it had not appeared for decades. Whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, 5 to 6 figures flew up into the sky, fighting for the psychic bloody mushroom. Among them was Jiang Rong, as well as the expectant Lin Ming. If one could possess the spiritual eyes, it would be like adding wings to a tiger in the ruins of darkness. But Jiang Rong was the one who had discovered the mushroom, and his reaction was the fastest. He took the lead, grabbing the palm-sized psychic bloody mushroom. But just as he was about to grab it, the psychic bloody mushroom disappeared. Looking over, it had been pulled away by the cold threads. "Su Yu!" Jiang Rong was furious, turning his head fiercely. Looking over, Su Yu stood calmly at his original position. With a flick of his finger, the psychic bloody mushroom that everyone was fighting for landed in his palm. Su Yu ignored Jiang Rong's angry roar, leisurely grabbing the psychic bloody mushroom in his palm. "I have already given you a chance. You did not cherish it. Don't blame me for not respecting our friendship." Jiang Rong was completely furious. Previously, he had swallowed his anger for the crystal spiritual flower because of Lin Ming. But now, Su Yu had once again snatched away the treasure that belonged to him. Even if Lin Ming tried to stop him, Jiang Rong would not be merciful. Whoosh, descending quickly, Jiang Rong gathered a light yellow ball in his palm. He descended from the sky, slamming it towards Su Yu fiercely. Kneel! Chapter 165. Stop! Lin Ming's expression changed, shouting at Jiang Rong to stop him. Unfortunately, they were too far away and could not reach him. Jiang Rong ignored him, his gaze fierce and his attack merciless. At that moment, no one could save him. The wind blew, ruffling Su Yu's silver hair. His calm eyes were filled with a divine glow. Humph! With a light grunt, Su Yu disappeared from his spot. A blurry purple shadow charged toward Jiang Rong instead of retreating. Jiang Rong let out a cold laugh. Your pride has been shaken, and you choose to strike a rock with an egg? How pitiful! After saying this, the light yellow ball in his palm was about to explode. Rumble! Su Yu charged over, his palm filled with bluish-green ice flames, clashing with Jiang Rong. The light yellow ball and the bluish-green ice flames created a powerful air current upon contact. But the spirit energy in Su Yu's body was extraordinary. The palm formed by the bluish-green ice flames pierced through the shockwave of the explosion and struck Jiang Rong's palm. Crack! Ah! With a pathetic shriek, Jiang Rong was sent flying. His fierce eyes had unknowingly turned into fear. Su Yu's spirit energy was above his. Lin Ming, who had rushed over, was shocked. What a terrifying amount of spirit energy! Could he have cultivated the faction's thousand-thread mantra to its peak? The expressions of the other team members who had rushed over changed. Among them, Su Yu, who had the lowest cultivation level, had the hidden ability to defeat the person with the highest cultivation level with one palm. Looking at Su Yu, who was silently standing in midair, his silver hair fluttering in the wind, their gazes gradually changed. As for Jiang Rong, who had his right arm broken, no one pitied him. He had been arrogant and bullied the weak. In the end, he had been severely injured by Su Yu. He deserved it. Glancing at him, Su Yu said coldly, "Don't do it again." After saying this, he casually threw the spiritual blood mushroom to Lin Ming. "Senior, you are leading the team and need the spiritual eyes. This is the most suitable item for you to consume." The crowd was secretly envious, but did not dare object. Firstly, Su Yu and Lin Ming were the strongest in the team. They could not resist. Secondly, Su Yu's words made sense. With Lin Ming possessing the spiritual eyes, they would be safer. Lin Ming was filled with gratitude. After consuming the mushroom, his eyes glowed with a bloody glow, like a pair of red gems in the darkness. "This is great. From here, I can observe the situation within 1 li." Lin Ming was delighted. Everyone was relieved, but Jiang Rong's eyes were filled with unwillingness and regret. The spiritual bloody mushroom, which should have belonged to him, was snatched away by Su Yu. If he had not come into conflict with Su Yu, he would not have ended up like this. An hour later, everyone safely passed through the dark canyon. Along the way, they encountered a few waves of rank 4 demonic beasts, but they were all discovered by Lin Ming in advance, and the hidden dangers were eliminated in advance. It's all thanks to the spiritual blood mushroom that junior brother Su gave us that there were no casualties. Lin Ming was truly grateful. In the darkness, although the strength of the demonic beasts wasn't high, there were many of them. If he hadn't detected them in time, it would have been hard to avoid casualties. Hee, let's leave the canyon first and see if we can meet up with the rest of the team. Su Yu was not concerned, and he took a step out of the canyon's entrance. However, the scene in front of him caused his expression to stiffen slightly. The rest of the people who came out of the canyon were also shocked. Before them was 100-li-long ravine, cutting off the path ahead of them. A faint yellow fluorescent light was emitted from the crack, condensing into a layer of light film that blocked the air. This is... The light film at the entrance of the cave in the Forbidden Ruins can stop Dragon Realm Levels 3 from entering. Why would it appear here? Lin Ming was extremely confused. Su Yu did not bat an eyelid. He picked up a broken rock and shot it toward the light film in the air. In the end, it turned to dust the moment it hit the light film. Hiss! The other 8 people gasped. Right at this moment, a long and drawn-out sigh suddenly sounded out from beside them. At least there's someone with a bit of brains. Everyone was instantly on guard, turning their heads to look. Only then did they realize that there were other members who were also blocked in front of the light film. Scanning the area, the group realized that the 99 tunnels all led to the area in front of the light film. The person who had spoken was Wei Kong, who had arrived earlier than them. He was a powerful fighter of Dragon Realm Level 1, and also the vice leader of this expedition. Wei Kong was 18 or 19 years old. Although he was young, his talent was terrifying. He was the 5th Elder's proud last disciple. In terms of abilities, he was only below the faction's 4 great core disciples. He was at the peak of his success, and as such, he was arrogant. He might have held back in front of Mo Wu, but in front of Su Yu and his group, he was completely exposed. Looking at Su Yu, Wei Kong shook his head. But it's a pity that you are only slightly more intelligent. You are only slightly stronger than a pig. Lin Ming and his group felt humiliated. In other words, in Wei Kang's eyes, they were as stupid as pigs? And Su Yu was only slightly stronger than a pig? Wei Kong raised his chin slightly, his eyelids drooping. With a hint of arrogance, he flicked a bolt of spirit energy toward the light film. Creak, a shocking scene appeared. The light film turned into the mouth of a beast, swallowing the spirit energy. "This is not the repelling spell at the entrance of the cave," said Wei Kong. "That place only repels fighters of Dragon Realm Level 3 and above. But this place, once a person whose abilities do not match enter, he or she will be swallowed by the light film. It is extremely dangerous." Wei Kang's expression was grave. It was obvious that no one had expected the Forbidden Ruins to have a barrier of light. Moreover, it was not only fighters of Dragon Realm Level 3 and above. Even Lin Ming, who was at Dragon Realm Level 1, was being repelled. Lin Ming sucked in a breath of cold air. In other words, the 3 team leaders would have to stop here, unable to lead the way? Whiz, whiz, at that moment, figures came out from the other exits one after another. They were the members of the team. Some of them were filled with excitement. Like Su Yu and his group, they had gained a lot. Some of them were in a sorry state, covered in blood. It was obvious that they had suffered great danger. After some time, all 33 of them had gathered. Even though they were injured, none of them had died. Mo Wu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. However, her gaze was fixed on the light film, filled with surprise and worry. Who arrived first? Mo Wu looked around. Lin Ming said respectfully, "Senior Wei arrived first, followed by the 9 of us." Wei Kong? Mo Wu's beautiful eyes glanced over. Wei Kang's arrogant expression was replaced with respect and a hidden adoration. The faction's number 1 icy beauty, no one could remain calm under her charm. Wei Kong was one of the people who had pursued Mo Wu before. "Senior, I have studied the light film. It is difficult for Dragon Realm Level 1 fighters to pass through it. If you force it, your life will be in danger." Wei Kong moved forward, secretly inhaling the fragrance from Mo Wu's body as he tried to please her. Mo Wu creased her brows. Then, what level of fighter would be unaffected? Wei Kang's expression turned rigid. "This matter. I have yet to deduce it." Mo Wu's beautiful eyes flashed with disappointment. Her gaze fell on Su Yu. "Tell me your opinion." "What opinion can he have? That pig brain of his?" Wei Kong grunted in disdain. However, Su Yu turned a deaf ear to him, his tone calm. "Those who are not holy kings are not allowed to enter. Furthermore, it is limited to 10 people." At that moment, the entire place was dead silent. Wei Kong had studied the light film for a long time and could only deduce that Dragon Realm fighters were not allowed to enter. However, Su Yu had deduced that only holy kings were allowed to enter. Furthermore, he had accurately deduced the number of people who could enter. Even Mo Wu was a little stunned. A moment later, Lin Ming asked in confusion, "Why does Junior Su know so much? Can you explain?" "Sure." Su Yu nodded his chin. "Those who enter must be higher or lower than holy kings. Hence, not a single stone could pass through. As for the number of people, it is limited to 10. Wei Kong laughed coldly. "What a joke! You can determine that only holy kings are allowed to enter by throwing a stone? Not only that, you even dared to state the number of people who could enter. Do you think that everyone is as stupid as you and will be easily fooled?" Unexpectedly, Su Yu shrugged his shoulders, calmly saying, "I do not know if others are stupid, but Senior Wei might really be." "Who told you that I guessed it?" Su Yu looked at the pale yellow light screen. The light screen was distorted, causing the situation on the other side of the fissure to be blurry. But in Su Yu's eyes, everything was clear. Wei Kong laughed angrily. "If you did not guess it, how dare you spout nonsense? I said you had a pig brain." "It was carved on the stone tablet on the other side," Su Yu calmly interrupted him. Wei Kong froze on the spot, suddenly looking over. Even with his eyesight, he could not see through the light screen. How could Su Yu see the stone tablet on the other side and recognize the words on it? Surprised, Wei Kong gradually narrowed his eyes. "Why are you the only one who can see it clearly?" But at that moment, Lin Ming had a strange expression. "It seems like there really is a stone tablet on the other side." The effects of the spiritual eyes were far inferior to Su Yu's crystalline pupils, but it was still superior to the eyesight of a normal person. Wei Kong froze on the spot, his face flushed red. He had painstakingly guessed for half a day, but it could not compare to Su Yu's casual glance. Mo Wu looked at him in disappointment, walking to Su Yu's side and questioning him carefully. Her words were filled with trust, not a hint of suspicion. A moment later, Mo Wu stood up, coldly ordering, "If that is the case, send 10 people over." After looking around, Mo Wu quickly made arrangements. "Those who are not holy kings are not allowed to enter. In that case, for the sake of safety, we will send the 10 strongest holy kings in, which are 10 6th-level holy kings. However, considering the effect of Su Yu's eyesight, Su Yu will replace one of the 10 holy kings." Sweeping her gaze across, Mo Wu's eyes landed on a 6th-level holy king, who was in a sorry state and had a few light injuries. "You will rest here, Su Yu will replace you to explore." Just like that, the group of 10 was decided. "Set off, report back here within 3 days. Mo Wu gave the order. Hearing this, the group crossed the light yellow membrane. Just as Su Yu had said, when the holy kings passed through, they only felt a layer of invisible energy sweep past their bodies, and they passed through without any obstacles. Very quickly, the group saw the other side of the blocked fissure. With just a glance, everyone was shocked on the spot. The place that was blocked was the end of the forbidden ruins. The ancient palaces were completely preserved. If any of them were to be placed in the abyss of Wudong, they would definitely be heavily excavated by the faction. Furthermore, they could often uncover extremely important treasures. But here, there were a total of 10 complete palaces. In an instant, everyone went into a frenzy. Regardless of whether they were 6th-level peak holy kings or 6th-level lower-tier holy kings, their eyes were filled with passion. Without the supervision of the team leader, they could hide a portion of the treasures without anyone noticing. Whoosh, whoosh, at that moment, the figures floated, fighting for the palaces. Chapter 166. Narrowing his eyes, Su Yu stared at the stone tablet. On the stone tablet, there was an extremely shallow palm print. The reason it caught Su Yu's attention was that the stone tablet had existed for countless years and was filled with vicissitude. But the palm print was extremely fresh. It should have been left within a month. In other words, someone had been here long ago. Without a doubt, the person who came was not a disciple of the Abyss of Wudong. But if it was not them, then who could it be? Suddenly, Su Yu's mind recalled the terrifying red-eyed ghost he saw at the bottom of the abyss. Could it be that? Su Yu was bewildered. At this moment, The disciples had finally occupied an ancient palace and entered it to search excitedly. But in a short while, the disciples' expressions changed and they entered the other palaces to investigate. But soon, they came out again and their expressions became uglier. An hour later, the expressions of the 9 of them were ugly. What's going on? We were the only ones who entered the forbidden ruins. Why have all the valuable items been plundered? The strangest thing is that the traces of looting are clear. Who was it that got here before us? Within the 10 palaces, the group found nothing. The unprecedented joy instantly turned into bubbles. If that's the case, let's go back and report immediately. A 6th-level peak Holy King looked around vigilantly. But at this moment, a mournful and painful cry came from the crack in the ground where the light curtain was located. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Immediately after, the pale yellow light screen changed rapidly. Its color changed from yellow to black and it emitted a truly terrifying fluctuation. The words on the stone tablet in front of Su Yu also changed at this moment. Death light screen, you cannot pass through, leave quickly. The words on the stone tablet could change? Everyone was shocked. But the pale yellow light screen had indeed started to turn a strange black color. Leave quickly. The 6th-level peak Holy King let out a low grunt and took the lead to fly across the rapidly darkening light screen. Su Yu's expression changed as he spread his wings and flew away. But his icy divine wings remained in its first form and his speed could not compare to a 6th-level Holy King's. Hence, he was the last. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the figures successfully escaped through the light screen. Su Yu clenched his teeth and wanted to rush over. But at this moment, his side was suddenly attacked. Rumble. A claw that was covered in white light silently attacked Su Yu's back. From the looks of it, he wanted to kill Su Yu on the spot. At the same time, Su Yu's expression changed slightly. Without thinking, he countered with a punch. Bang! He struck out with his palm, and the spiritual energy in the other party's palm invaded his body, causing his right arm to ache. There was a slight tremor in his internal organs, and the pain spread from his arm to his entire body. Looking back, Su Yu's eyes were ice-cold. Tang. Xian. Currently, the only people who had not passed through the light screen were him and Tang Yixuan. Seizing the opportunity, Tang Yixuan secretly attacked Su Yu and killed him with a sneak attack. At the same time, he also obtained the shocking jade box in Su Yu's chest. Your strength. He broke through to the peak of the 4th order? No wonder. Tang Yixuan was surprised. His sneak attack should have been able to crush Su Yu's heart without any obstruction. Unexpectedly, it was blocked by Su Yu. His strength had clearly increased compared to before. Su Yu was forced back 10 meters by the claw, and he was even further away from the light screen. At that moment, the light screen rapidly turned black. Once it turned black, it would become a death light screen, and Su Yu would not be able to pass through it. Hand over the jade box, or I will be trapped here forever. Tang Yixuan was a little anxious. Su Yu was more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Hence, he could only use a gentle strategy to obtain the jade box first. As for whether he would let Su Yu go, it was obvious that in order to keep the jade box a secret, he naturally had to kill Su Yu to silence him. Su Yu was furious. At the crucial moment, he was stopped by Tang Yixuan. Seeing that the light screen was turning black at a shocking speed, Su Yu chose another direction to pass through the light screen. Whoosh, but Tang Yixuan moved to stop him. His eyes were filled with anxiety and a fierce light. You deserve to die. That jade box is not something you can control. Give it to me immediately. After saying this, he took the initiative to chase after Su Yu. Su Yu knew that the jade box was extremely valuable. Apart from the divine 9-dragon cauldron, Su Yu had never seen such a valuable treasure. Hence, he was determined not to give way. Whoosh, the two of them chased after each other in the air in front of the black light screen. Although Tang Yixuan was fast, he could not catch up to Su Yu immediately. Hence, the two of them chased after each other for 10 breaths. Seeing that Tang Yixuan was about to catch up to Su Yu, the light yellow light screen was only 1 breath away from turning black. Waves of black deathly energy came from within the light screen. Tang Yixuan's expression changed. He could no longer care about Su Yu and passed through the light screen. A thread of black energy came into contact with his clothes, causing them to decay at a speed visible to the naked eye. His right calf, which was the last to leave, was badly mutilated by the black energy. Immediately after, it turned into black ashes. His calf was swallowed by the black energy. With a horrible shriek, Tang Yixuan staggered back. He turned his head to look at the black light screen and his eyes were filled with fear. A deathly energy that devours flesh and blood. Mo Wu's beautiful eyes turned serious. It was difficult to see the deathly energy with the naked eye. Unless it was extremely concentrated, it could be seen. But this light screen was formed by the deathly energy. Hence, it was obvious how frightening the deathly energy was. Where is Su Yu? Mo Wu had an idea and questioned Tang Yixuan. The light screen of time had turned black, and it was impossible to pass through it. If one tried to pass through it forcefully, they would be destroyed. Tang Yixuan's expression changed slightly. His eyes flickered and he was blaming himself. Junior Su's speed was slower. When I left, he had not reached the light screen. I'm afraid he will remain there forever. In his heart, Tang Yixuan felt that it was a pity. That jade box was definitely an extremely frightening item. Mo Wu's expression changed and her heart was in a mess. Su Yu did not escape? What made Mo Wu's heart sink was that the deathly light screen had started to release a thick, black deathly energy. Not good. Retreat quickly. Wei Kang's scalp turned numb. Such a frightening deathly energy was fatal to a Dragon Realm martial artist. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The group returned the way they came and hid in the ravine that Su Yu and his group had entered to avoid the black energy. Mo Wu's beautiful eyes narrowed and she blamed herself. Why did she send Su Yu over? How would she explain to her teacher in the future? How would she mention it to Qin Xiener? Not good. Continue to retreat. The deathly energy is going to fill the forbidden ruins. We cannot stay in the forbidden grounds any longer. The expression of the other Dragon Realm Level 1 Vice Captain, Lan Ling, changed and she immediately gave an order. The black energy passed through the ravine and entered the ravine. Wherever the black aura passed, all living beings were reduced to ashes. The ravine that was filled with the warmth of spring was instantly filled with black ashes. It was like hell. Mo Wu looked at the outside of the ravine, her face filled with guilt. Su Yu, I'm sorry. After saying this, she led the group and quickly retreated along the path they came from. Every time they retreated, the black energy would chase after them. All the demonic beasts they met along the way were turned into ashes by the black energy, not even their bones were left. The deathly energy that made one's scalp go numb forced them to leave the forbidden cave. They only managed to suppress the deathly energy until the pale yellow light screen at the entrance of the cave. If not for that, the entire abyss of Wudong would have been filled with black fog. The group had escaped with their lives and were exhausted. They were in a sorry state. Their faces were filled with the joy of surviving a calamity. We finally made it out alive. What was the horrible shriek coming from deep within the crack? Why would it cause the light screen to change and become filled with the deathly energy? This was the question in everyone's heart. Lin Ming had a sorrowful expression. The only pity is Junior Su. We have abandoned him. The group froze and were all apathetic. Although Su Yu's cultivation level was not strong, he had played an important role. Most of the disciples in the abyss of Wudong had a good impression of him. However, all of them had escaped. Only Su Yu was left behind forever. Mo Wu slowly closed her eyes. She clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She did not manage to bring Su Yu back alive. Senior Mo, I'm sorry. It's me. Tang Yishuan pretended to blame himself. Although no one said it explicitly, Tang Yishuan could feel that they were blaming him. Why did he not help Su Yu at the last moment? Slap, however, an unexpected scene occurred. Mo Wu suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were cold and she slapped Tang Yishuan's face. The crisp and dull slap stunned everyone. Tang Yishuan was also stunned. He had been slapped in front of everyone? You! Tang Yishuan was furious. Even if he was responsible, he should not have slapped her in front of everyone, right? However, his voice stopped abruptly. After slapping him, Mo Wu had also slapped herself. A bright red palm print was clearly imprinted on that classical and aesthetically beautiful face that seemed to be carved from jade. Everyone then realized that Mo Wu's eyes were brimming with tears. You are responsible for Su Yu's death. I am even more responsible, Mo Wu said coldly. However, there was a slight tremble in her voice that had never been there before. Everyone was ashamed and sorrowful. Senior Mo was still sad about Su Yu's death. She was as cold as a mountain and did not show her emotions. However, at this moment she was crying for someone. Tang Yishuan touched his burning cheeks and was secretly hateful. You slapped me? Fine. Anyway, the time has come. Mo Wu, your good days are over. In the Forbidden Ruins, Su Yu's expression was grave. The light screen of death exploded. A large amount of deathly energy surged toward him, wanting to turn him into ashes. This place was the end of the ruins. It was a dangerous place. Facing the terrifying deathly energy, Su Yu could not defend himself. Am I going to die here? Su Yu was unwilling. If he died, who would save Xian'er? Would Jingyu be sad? However, in this big world, there was no one he could ask for help from. Crack, however, at this moment, the words carved on the stone tablet changed again. If you want to be saved, enter the bottom of the crevice. Su Yu only took a glance before he plunged into the depths of the crevice, without any hesitation. He was racing against time, against the deathly energy. Regardless of whether the words on the stone tablet were true or false, Su Yu had no other choice. If he stayed above, he would die. If he entered the crevice, he would still have a chance of survival. Creak. The crevice was not deep, only a few hundred feet. When Su Yu landed at the bottom of the abyss, the deathly energy swept toward him, staining his clothes and turning them into ashes. The purple cloud dust-proof robe that he was wearing had been destroyed by the stomach acid of the snow lion. Su Yu was surprised to find that the deathly energy could only linger 10 feet above the bottom of the crevice. Hence, the bottom of the crevice was extremely safe. After all these years, I can finally see a second living person. An old and hoarse voice, filled with an ancient aura, rang in Su Yu's ears. Chapter 167. Who is it? Su Yu felt a chill down his spine. How could someone who claimed to be ancient be human? Right in front of you. Su Yu looked over. At the bottom of the dark crevice, there were only broken rock. No, there was a tomb without a tablet. The tomb was overgrown with weeds, desolate and lonely. The voice had come from the tomb without a tablet. Su Yu's heart trembled. A strong martial artist who had died thousands of years ago? Su Yu thought for a moment, then bowed. Thank you, Elder. The words on the tablet above the crevice changed 3 times. The first time was to remind them of the descent of death and to leave quickly. The second time was to remind Su Yu, who had lagged behind, to hide under the crevice. Su Yu bowed to him for saving him twice. Aren't you going to ask who I am? In the tomb without a tombstone, white smoke rose in spirals, and a transparent, misty figure drifted out of the tomb. It turned into a white-robed old man. His plain robe moved without wind. His hair and beard were all white. His old face was covered in wrinkles, as if he was on the brink of death. Even though he was old, he was hale and hearty, full of energy. He had a peerless temperament like a celestial being. What surprised Su Yu was that this person was transparent. He even wondered if ghosts really existed in this world. but his surprise was quickly replaced by calmness and vigilance. He replied calmly, "Rather than who you are, I am more concerned about whether you are a human or a ghost." The old man nodded in admiration. "Interesting. You can remain calm despite seeing such a strange human form. It is hard to believe that you are only 15 years old." "As you guessed, I am indeed a soul body. In the words of a normal person, I am a ghost." The old man revealed his identity. It was a soul body from thousands of years ago. His physical body had been destroyed, but his soul remained, forming the old man's current state. Suyu sucked in a breath of cold air. Soul body. A human's soul could leave the physical body and exist alone? The old man's state toppled Suyu's worldview. When the soul reaches a certain level of strength, it can leave the physical body and travel the world. It is not surprising. You cannot understand it now, but one day you will reach my level. Because you are also a prodigy of souls. The old man smiled as he looked at Suyu. He could see the strength of Suyu's soul. In front of the old man, apart from the divine nine-dragon cauldron, Suyu felt as if his entire body had been seen through, and he had nowhere to hide. Suyu felt a chill in his heart, and he bowed to pay his respects. "Senior Ghost." "Haha, this old man is Yunyazi. Yunya will do." Suyu memorized the name, and his eyeballs turned slightly. "Elder Yunya, may I ask if you have any requests for saving us twice?" Actually, even if Yunyazi did not ask for anything in return, Suyu still wanted to do his part to repay him for saving his life. If not for Yunyazi, Suyu would have died in the deadly energy that day. Yunyazi was slightly stunned. He looked at Suyu curiously and clicked his tongue in wonder. "I have seen countless people in my life, but there are very few who are as understanding as you at your age. I did have my own selfish motives for saving you." Yunyazi sighed softly. "In the past, I was plotted against. My physical body was destroyed, and my soul was sealed in this place. I've been trying to break free for many years, but the existence of the seal prevents me from doing so." Yunyazi looked at the screen of light above his head. That was the seal that suppressed his soul. "Until a year ago, when there was an earthquake and the seal loosened, I was able to leave the tomb for a short period of time. However, I could only leave 100 feet. At this point, Suyu understood Yunyazi's request. He wanted to bring him away from this place. Although he did not know who had sealed Yunyazi and what his personality was like, he had saved Suyu's life. Furthermore, he had kindly reminded them of the descent of the light screen of death, and told them to leave quickly. It seemed like he was not an evil person. "Originally, I had hoped that one of you could bring me away. Who would have thought that evil creature would be so ambitious and rashly tamper with the seal, causing the light screen of death to descend and accidentally put all of you in danger, trapping you here as well." Yunyazi sighed. "Evil creature? Who?" Suyu suddenly remembered that Yunyazi had said that Suyu was the second person he had seen in all these years. Then who was the first person? For some reason, Suyu thought of the red-eyed ghost at the bottom of the abyss of Wudong. Could it be him? Keeping his doubts, Suyu said, "Elder Yunya, how can I save you and leave this place?" Since the red-eyed ghost had alarmed the light screen of death and could leave, Suyu should be able to leave as well. Yunyazi was slightly stunned. Suyu had taken the initiative to save him, which surprised him. "Saving me is easy. If you have a treasure that can contain and nourish souls, you can," Yunyazi said. "A treasure that can contain and nourish souls?" Suyu was troubled. The only treasure he had was the divine ice ring. It was bone-piercing cold, and was not suitable for nourishing souls. Suddenly, Suyu thought of the jade box in his robes. That item was extremely shocking. It was protected by a terrifying corpse, so it must be extraordinary. Taking out the jade box, Suyu said, "Elder, can this item be used?" "The divine artifact of the Wudong sect's sovereign is actually in your hands." Yunyazi revealed a shocked expression for the first time, looking at Suyu with surprise. Divine artifact? Su Yu's heart thumped. Furthermore, it was the so-called divine artifact of the Wudong sect's sovereign. Could the sovereign be the master of the abyss of Wudong? If that was the case, the power of the divine artifact would be even more extraordinary. Knowing that Su Yu had accidentally obtained it from the space, Yun Yazi did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yu and Tang Yishuan's luck is extraordinary. That space should be the place where the Wudong sect's sovereign passed away. It formed a space of its own and was sealed for eternity. There is only a transportation spell to leave, but no way to enter. Even the people of the abyss of Wudong would find it difficult to enter. As for the two of you, because the spell has been in disrepair for a long time, you accidentally entered that sealed space and obtained the jade box. Your luck is truly extraordinary. You should know that the value of all the treasures in the entire abyss of Wudong is not even a fraction of the value of this jade box. Yun Yazi exclaimed. What? This jade box was so precious? Su Yu's heart thumped slightly. The harvest this time was beyond his imagination. Elder, what treasure is in the jade box? Can you enter it? Su Yu asked. Yun Yazi's expression was slightly grave. It can barely store my soul body. However, I advise you not to open the jade box. With your current weak cultivation base, it will only bring harm and no benefit. Su Yu shivered. Thinking back to the corpse, he felt a stinging pain in his eyes just from looking at it. It could be imagined that the jade box definitely contained a powerful force. Opening it rashly might be a disaster. Elder, please come in. Su Yu extended the jade box. Yun Yazi was startled. Are you not afraid that I will go back on my word? After I escape, I will bite the hand that feeds me and snatch the jade box? Even though I am a soul body, dealing with you is as easy as flipping my hand. Su Yu smiled bitterly. Of course I am worried. Elder, your origins are unknown and you are unfathomable. I will definitely be at risk. Then you. Yun Yazi did not understand. Su Yu had already considered this. Su Yu stopped smiling bitterly, regaining his composure. I, Su Yu, will always repay favors. Even if you are a ghost, it will still be the same. Even though he knew there were risks, he would still repay favors? Yun Yazi looked at Su Yu deeply, secretly admiring him. There was a shred of hesitation deep in his eyes. Withdrawing his strange expression, Yun Yazi shook his head and laughed. Ha ha, what a good repay favors! If that is the case, I can be at ease. If you are like that evil creature, even if you ask me, I will not leave with you. Whoosh, Yun Yazi turned into a ball of transparent smoke and entered the jade box. Yun Yazi's old laughter could be heard from the jade box. Little brat, don't worry. Even though I am in trouble, this jade box is nothing to me. When I recover my peak abilities, I might not even take a look at the jade box even if you give it to me. Su Yu clicked his tongue. What arrogance! In Yun Yazi's eyes, such a shocking jade box was something that he would not even take a look at. What kind of expert was he? Why did he die here? Elder, may I ask how I can leave this place? Su Yu asked. The jade box was silent for a moment before an awkward reply came. Cough cough. Don't you know? Whoosh, a gust of wind blew past. Su Yu froze on the spot, beads of cold sweat forming on his forehead. He had been counting on the help of this mysterious elder. In the end, he did not know either. That evil creature, Yun Yazi thought. Since he could enter and leave freely, there must be a passageway. I was suppressed by the seal, and could not leave within 100 feet of it. Hence, I could not detect the location of the passageway. You have extraordinary eyesight. Check carefully. Su Yu had the same thought. He had already activated his crystalline pupils to observe. Suddenly, he discovered a crack on the stone wall that could only allow one person to pass through. The angle was remote and deliberately hidden. Hence, Su Yu did not notice it at first. With a flash, Su Yu approached the crack, intending to enter. Wait! Yun Yazi suddenly reminded him. Su Yu stopped abruptly, his face filled with surprise. "Why, is there a trap in the crack? Why did I not notice it?" Yazi said in a low voice. "That evil creature's cultivation level is far above yours. It is normal that you could not detect the tricks he left behind." Whoosh, a bolt of soul energy extended, striking the entrance of the crack. Creak, a layer of scarlet flame that was hard to see with the naked eye appeared at the clearly empty entrance. The intense heat caused Su Yu's heart to beat wildly. He immediately retreated dozens of meters. What a terrifying flame! If he had touched it carelessly just now, would he not have been reduced to ashes immediately? His methods are vicious. In order to prevent others from barging in, he hid such a trap. That evil creature! Yazi grunted. A bolt of soul energy swept out, extinguishing the terrifying scarlet flame on the spot. As for Yazi's soul, it was unharmed. What a terrifying soul! Such a terrifying flame could be extinguished by a soul. How powerful was he when he was alive? Su Yu said, "Elder, I shall enter then." Unexpectedly, Yazi looked into the depths of the crack. After a moment of silence, he sighed helplessly. "I'm afraid you will be trapped here forever. Even though the flame in the cave has been extinguished, there are many sparks hidden in the cave. The temperature is extremely high. With your cultivation level, it would be difficult for you to last more than a cup of tea." Su Yu looked into the crack. Indeed, he discovered that within the crack, there were extremely hot flames dancing sporadically. If he were to enter rashly, Su Yu would be reduced to ashes in an instant. Who had left it behind? The scarlet flame was so terrifying? Su Yu's heart sank. Unless your cultivation level reaches 7th level Holy King and you have powerful spirit energy to resist it, otherwise. Yazi sighed. With Su Yu's current cultivation level of 4th level peak, the breakthrough to 7th level Holy King was not something that could be achieved in a few days. Chapter 168. Without sufficient resources, a 7th level Holy King would be hard to reach even if one were to meditate for 100 years. Was he going to be trapped at the bottom of the crack forever? Su Yu's eyes flashed and he condensed a bluish-green ice flame in his palm, then shot it into the crevice. The ice flame lasted for a few breaths before it was extinguished. This scene caused Yazi to be slightly surprised. So you actually cultivate an ice attribute cultivation technique. In that case, you only need to break through to the 6th level Holy King. With the spiritual energy of a 6th level Holy King combined with an ice attribute cultivation technique, you might be able to barely hold on. However, even breaking through to 6th level Holy King was still a long way off for Su Yu. After that, Su Yu once again created a ball of blue-green ice flame and imbued it with thick spiritual energy. The bluish-green ice flame was only extinguished after 30 breaths of time. Yazi looked surprised. The amount of spiritual energy is quite rich. His cultivation is at the peak of the 4th level, but the amount of spiritual energy at the peak of the 5th level. This is not bad? In the whole faction, who would dare compete with Su Yu in terms of spiritual energy? From the looks of it, as long as you break through to 5th level Holy King, your spiritual energy will be comparable to that of a 6th level Holy King. Yazi heaved a sigh of relief. At least there was still hope for him to break through to 5th level Holy King. Breaking through to 5th level Holy King? Su Yu nodded slightly. It was time for him to seek a breakthrough. Under the effects of the crystalline spirit flower, Zhang Xian's bloodline returned to its normal state, allowing him to unleash the full potency of the medicine. Schwa, with a flip of his palm, Su Yu retrieved a top-grade marrow-cleansing elixir. This was something he had exchanged for before he left. It was said that only the sect master could give it out, and it was extremely rare. The top-grade marrow-cleansing elixir was dark blue in color. It was like a ball that emitted a deep fluorescent glow. Bursts of fragrant energy caused Su Yu's cultivation base to loosen. There were signs of a breakthrough. What a terrifying medicinal effect! Just a whiff of the fragrance, and there were signs of a breakthrough? This was definitely not something that a mid-grade marrow cleansing pill could achieve. If he swallowed it, would he be able to break through from the peak of the fourth order to the peak of the fifth order? Or, directly stepping into the ranks of the Type 6 powerhouses? However, just as Su Yu was about to consume the elixir in search of a breakthrough, Yun Yazi stopped him. Top-grade marrow cleansing elixir? Aren't you afraid of exploding and dying? Su Yu's heart shuddered slightly. Elder, is there something wrong with the elixir? Yun Yazi laughed involuntarily. It's not the medicinal pill that has a problem, but you. The medicinal energy of a superior grade marrow cleansing pill is equivalent to 100 medial grade marrow cleansing pills. The energy it contains is too much for you, like a rubber ball. What do you think will happen if too much qi enters it? Su Yu's scalp turned numb. But I have swallowed 35 medium-grade marrow cleansing elixirs. Why am I unscathed? Yun Yazi sneered. If I didn't guess wrongly, the medicinal effects of those 35 medicinal pills didn't take effect at the same time. Otherwise, you would have been in trouble long ago. I wonder if what I said is correct? How was it only correct? His words were spot on. Back then, due to his bloodline, the medicinal power of the 35 pills had settled down, and he had to go through it twice before he could completely digest them. In this way, what Yun Yazi said wasn't false. However, if I do not consume this elixir, I am afraid that it will be difficult for me to make a breakthrough to 5th level Holy King in a short period of time. Su Yu's eyes were filled with worry. Yun Yazi chuckled and said, Don't worry, I can help you absorb 1/3 of this pill's medicinal strength. As for the remaining 2/3, I'll help you absorb half of it and seal the other half in your body so that you can prepare to break through at any time. But even 1/3 was equivalent to the medicinal energy of 35 medium-grade marrow cleansing pills. I will help you calm the medicinal energy of the 1/3 released, so that you can safely break through. Su Yu hesitated. Even though he would lose 1/3 of the medicinal energy to Yun Yazi, if he could safely digest the superior grade marrow cleansing pill, it would not be a loss. After saying this, Su Yu took out the superior grade marrow cleansing pill. An obscure space energy came from within the jade box, covering the superior grade marrow cleansing pill. In the blink of an eye, the superior grade marrow cleansing pill dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye, losing 30% of its medicinal energy. Alright, I have already absorbed 1/3 of the medicinal energy and sealed 1/3 of the medicinal energy in the pill. Only the last 30% of the medicinal energy is left. You can absorb it now. Swallow it. Hearing this, Su Yu bit his teeth and swallowed it on the spot. 30% of the medicinal energy was equivalent to 30 medium-grade marrow cleansing pills. The energy it contained was like a flood, suddenly wreaking havoc in his body. His blood boiled in an instant, causing his energy channels to swell, as if they were about to burst from the explosive energy. Waves of pain came from all parts of his body. At this moment, Su Yu really felt like he was about to explode. Yun Yazi was right. Even though the elixir was good, it had too much medicinal energy. It was no different from poison. At the critical moment, Yun Yazi acted in time. A gentle but extremely powerful soul energy entered Su Yu's body. That wild energy, upon coming into contact with the soul energy, became as docile as a sheep. It gently followed the guidance of the soul energy, slowly cleansing Su Yu's body. Yun Yazi's actions seemed effortless, and he even had the leisure to observe Su Yu's body. After muttering to himself for a moment, he said in a low voice, "Your body is weak. It is weak enough. Your cultivation speed is too fast, your foundation is not stable. The improvement of your body is obviously not comparable to a real 4th level peak Holy King. If you do not have a strong cultivation technique and spirit energy to rely on, you will most likely lose in front of someone of the same level." Su Yu was secretly surprised. He had indeed improved by leaps and bounds, ascending at an astonishing speed. To think that Yun Yazi could see the hidden danger in Su Yu's body. When I have time, I will formulate a few elixirs for you to remove the hidden danger, Yun Yazi said casually. Su Yu was delighted. Thank you, Elder. You don't have to thank me. Take it as a reward for me absorbing a third of your elixir. Yun Yazi said. Alright, focus your mind. As there is too much of the elixir, the absorption process will take about 2 days. Hearing this, Su Yu immediately focused and absorbed the huge amount of elixir. In the outside world, above the abyss of Wudong, within the tents, there was a gloomy atmosphere. During this exploration of the forbidden ruins, other than many people who had gained something from the valley, the rest did not get what they wanted. Not to mention the rumored immortal-level cultivation techniques, they did not even get a fragment of a legacy-level cultivation technique. For this, they had even sacrificed Junior Su Yu. The fourth elder gathered everyone. After receiving such a report, he had a helpless expression. Since the forbidden ruins are filled with death energy, we can only give up. Tomorrow, everyone will clean up the abyss of Wudong again. We will return to the faction the day after tomorrow. Everyone responded and went about their own business. Only Tang Yishuan's eyes were filled with coldness. He stared at Mo Wu, who was standing at the edge of the cliff. Mo Wu, your good days are over. Lan Ling and Wei Kong stood in front of the tent, silently watching Mo Wu. Senior Wei, Senior Mo seems to be feeling guilty for Su Yu's death. Lan Ling sighed. Wei Kong had a stern expression. Humph. Who does he think he is? Is he worthy of feeling guilty for Mo Wu? He deserved to die in the forbidden ruins because his skills were inferior. Lan Ling was slightly stunned. Senior Wei is still deeply in love with Senior Mo. Unfortunately, you should understand Senior Mo's character. You can't possibly move her heart. I don't believe it. One day, I will obtain both her body and heart. Wei Kang's eyes were filled with unwillingness and a desire to conquer. The next day, all the disciples of the abyss of Wudong entered the bottom of the abyss to search the ruins again for any missing items. Unfortunately, the area had been excavated for decades. If there were any treasures, they would have been discovered long ago. What did you find? The fourth elder gathered everyone and asked. As the team leader, Mo Wu stood up and reported. Reporting to the elder, we did not find anything. However, Mo Wu paused for a moment. However, I hope to stay for a few more days. Once the death energy in the forbidden ruins has settled, we can take the risk to explore again. Everyone had goosebumps. Was there still a need to go to such a dangerous place? After hearing what was said, the fourth elder sighed. Mo Wu, I understand your intention to save Su Yu. However, even if it was me, it would be difficult for me to survive that deadly energy. He has yet to come out. He has yet to come out. I am afraid. I cannot let the disciples of the faction risk their lives to look for a slim chance. Mo Wu's intentions were exposed. Her cold cheeks turned red. The sorrow in her eyes became even more intense. How could she not know that Su Yu's chances of survival were infinitely close to zero? She only wanted to use her last bit of strength. All right, rest for tonight. Tomorrow, follow me back to the faction. However, right at this moment, a beautiful voice that was pleasing to the ear like a silver bell surged over from the horizon. Back to the faction? Do you think you have a chance? Whoosh, as everyone's pupils shrank, a black flying boat descended from the sky at an astounding speed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A row of silver-robed guards descended from the black boat. There were about 20 of them. All of them were young men and women in their mid-20s. All of them had solemn expressions, cold and emotionless. Their cultivations caused the disciples at the scene to inhale deeply. The weakest among them was a 6th-level Holy King. The strongest among them had reached Dragon Realm Level 1 peak, comparable to Mo Wu. The strength of 20 people was enough to crush the disciples of 6th level and above in the abyss of Wudong. As for the lady leading them, her face was covered with a layer of veil. It was difficult to see her face. Only a pair of bright moon-like eyes refracted an intoxicating light under the quiet moonlight. She wore a purple dress, her alluring figure was clearly outlined. She had a pair of round peaks, a willowy waist, a perky butt and a pair of round and slender legs. All of these aroused the most primitive desires of men. She was only in her 20s. She looked 18 or 19, the most beautiful age for a flower to bloom. However, her cultivation base was difficult for everyone to see through. In the eyes of many, she was clearly a weak and powerless lady. However, the group of frightening young men behind her respectfully lowered their heads. The fourth elder was aghast. Fear came from the depths of his soul. He uttered 4 bone-chilling words: dark, dark, emperor, dynasty. The terrifying empire of darkness had descended upon the abyss of Wudong. Escape immediately. Spread out and don't look back. Don't run in the direction of the faction. Without any hesitation, the fourth elder gave the order. At the same time, he himself was fleeing in public. Yes, he did not even have the courage to fight with the 18 or 19-year-old lady, because the fourth elder could not see through her cultivation base. Rumble and Mo Wu turned pale. The Empire of Darkness was such a frightening existence, yet they were looking for them? Without any hesitation, Mo Wu turned and fled. Miss Hua, should we chase after them? Among the 20 young men, a young man at Dragon Realm Level 1 peak asked respectfully. The veiled lady's bright eyes were slightly curved, like a pair of crescent moons. Of course. Ignore the ants below 6th level Holy King. As for those above 6th level Holy King, capture them alive. The 3 Dragon Realm disciples must be captured alive. As for the 4th elder, leave him to me. Miss Hua instructed simply. Miss Hua, don't we need to kill them on the spot? The young man at Dragon Realm Level 1 peak asked carefully. Hearing this, Miss Hua's beautiful crescent moon-like eyes flashed with helplessness. Do you dare to kill the people from the Lucian faction? If that demon woman blames you, don't blame me for not saving you. Demon woman? Hearing this, the young man trembled. His eyes filled with an unprecedented respect. If you know, capture them alive. Of course, if they resist, you can kill them. Miss Hua added. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 20 of them were cold and silent, cooperating with each other. 2 in a group, they spread out in all 4 directions, each locking onto a level 6 Holy King target. Miss Hua looked in the direction of the 4th elder, her lips slightly pursed, hee. Old man, I will use you as a warm-up. Old fellow, I'll use you to warm up first. Then, I'll go to your sect and find the little bastard who killed my spiritual pet to settle the score. Whoosh, Miss Hua disappeared in the air, not even leaving a remnant shadow. At this moment, Su Yu awakened from his seclusion. His eyes widened, a beam of light blinking in his eyes. An unprecedented power filled his flesh. There was no need for him to summon spiritual energy. It hovered above his head, forming a faint cloud. Breaking through to 5th level upper tier Holy King in one go, consecutively crossing 2 cultivation levels? Su Yu was delighted. As expected of a top-grade marrow cleansing elixir, just a third of its medicinal effects had such power. Thinking of this, Su Yu was even more afraid. If he had swallowed the entire top-grade marrow cleansing elixir without anyone's reminder, he would have been left with a pile of minced meat. Yun Yazi slowly retracted his soul energy, a little doubtful. How strange. According to my calculations, you would need 2 days to digest such a large amount of medicinal effects. How did you manage to completely absorb it in a day? Could it be that there is something strange in your body that I have not discovered? Su Yu's heart thumped. His bloodline had been baptized by the red liquid of the 9-dragon cauldron, and was different from the bloodlines of ordinary people. Cough cough, maybe it was due to the pressure, but I absorbed the medicinal effects with half the effort. It is time to leave this place. Putting away his doubts, Yunyazi nodded. Your breakthrough is greater than expected. There should be no suspense in passing through the crevice. Suyu took a deep breath. His spirit energy and the blue-green ice flame revolved around his body at the same time, and he dove into the crevice. At once, the blazing flames caused Suyu's body to feel pain. But it was only pain, no harm. With that, Suyu was finally at ease, and he continued to advance along the crevice. This crevice gradually snaked upwards, leading to the surface. A month ago there was an earthquake, and this crevice appeared by accident. That evil creature entered through the crevice and discovered my existence. I believe that the ruins within the ancient palace were also taken by that evil creature, Yunyazi explained. Suyu's mouth twitched. Ruins? The ruins within the ancient palace were the foundation of the Lucien faction. But in Yunyazi's words, they were only ruins. But who was the evil creature that Yunyazi was talking about? Finally, an hour later, Suyu successfully passed through the crevice. Whoosh, exiting the crevice, Suyu let out a long breath. Surveying his surroundings, he was shocked to discover that he had escaped the forbidden ruins and was at the bottom of the abyss. A familiar ruin. This is... Suyu immediately recognized that this ruin was the ruin where the red-eyed ghost had sneakily appeared. Could it be that the ghost shadow had disappeared from this secret crevice? Elder Yunyazi, can you tell me who the evil creature is? Can you describe his appearance? A figure appeared in Suyu's mind. Yunyazi's voice turned serious. Little brat, you might be in trouble. Whoosh, at that moment, a figure descended from the sky above the abyss. Chapter 169. The newcomer was a woman in palace robes. She was 20 years old, but her strength had reached the peak of the 7th level. With such aptitude, apart from the top 10 disciples of the sect, who else could achieve this? The woman in the palace dress attacked fiercely, but when she got close, she leisurely withdrew her hand. Her red lips lightly curled. So it's a 5th-rank junior. What a waste of time. When he finished speaking, he gave up on Suyu and soared into the sky, flying to somewhere else. The danger came and went too quickly. The shock in Suyu's heart gradually calmed down, and he had a grave expression. I'm afraid the abyss of Wudong is in trouble. Whoosh, Suyu carefully flew to the abyss of Wudong. He stood at the edge of the abyss and looked around. His facial expression changed drastically. Within a 50-mile radius, a scene that made Suyu grave was playing out. A group of young experts with heaven-defying aptitudes were wantonly capturing rank 6 disciples of the abyss of Wudong. Those who stubbornly resisted were killed on the spot. 8 or 9 out of 10 rank 6 disciples were actually captured and killed. The battle had ended before it had even begun. The difference in strength between the two sides was too terrifying. Suyu was shocked. Where did such a group of powerful youths come from? However, the surprise only lasted for a moment before Suyu flew to the horizon. Their direction was also the opposite of the Lucien faction. It was obvious that they had come prepared. There must be many experts in the direction of the sect. Rashly flying back was tantamount to walking into a trap. The forest beneath his feet was dark and gloomy, like a passing shadow. However, Suyu's expression did not relax at all. Would the abyss of Wudong suffer a surprise attack signify some kind of upheaval? A sense of impending doom welled up in his heart. This escape lasted for several hours. The only thing that made Suyu feel relieved was that the strong martial artists along the way were not interested in Suyu, who was a 5th-level Holy King. Only 6th-level Holy Kings would attack him. Therefore, he escaped from the abyss of Wudong without mishap. However, just as Suyu heaved a sigh of relief, he suddenly heard the sound of an intense fight and a feminine shout. Emowu? Suyu's heart turned cold. The person who could cause her to fall into a bitter battle was definitely not an ordinary person. Suyu carefully snuck over and observed the battle from afar. There was blood at the corner of Mo Wu's mouth. Her ice-cold jade-like face was filled with killing intent. Her pair of almond-shaped eyes stared coldly at Tang Yixuan. Traitor! You are actually a spy in the Empire of Darkness. No wonder the location of the Abyss of Wudong was exposed. Tang Yixuan scolded with a cold expression. Bitch! Along the way, you shielded Su Yu again and again. Now, how are you going to show off? The man beside Tang Yixuan was the strongest among the 20 silver-clothed guards, a Dragon Realm Level 1 peak strong martial artist. His sharp gaze was filled with admiration as he sized up Mo Wu. You are 20 years old and have abilities of Dragon Realm Level 1 peak. Your aptitude is not bad. If you were in the Empire of Darkness, you would definitely be an important person to nurture. If you were to join the Empire of Darkness sincerely, you would definitely achieve great things in the future instead of staying in a corner of the continent. Mo Wu's eyes turned murderous. No need. A man could be without pride, but he could not be without pride. Forgive me for not being able to comply. Han Xiaowei, I have already said this before. This woman's temperament is cold and arrogant. It is impossible to communicate with her. This kind of person is extremely difficult to appease. The only way is to kill her on the spot. Tang Yixuan's eyes emitted a cold glint. Mo Wu shouted coldly, I still have a wish that I haven't fulfilled. I will never die here. The ones who will die are you. Cold Gale Sword. Mo Wu shouted and took out a soft sword from her waist. The silver light was dazzling and suffused with a cold light. Waves of cold intent circulated around the pale white sword. With the silver sword in her hand, Mo Wu's temperament changed. Her jade face, which was already cold and emotionless, became even colder, as if she was an unsheathed sword. Swift and fierce, tyrannical and cold. Tang Yixuan shivered. He quietly retreated a few steps and vigilantly said, Although I launched a sneak attack on her and broke her meridians, her strongest point is her swordsmanship. With a sword in hand, my power will increase by 30%, and I will be unrivaled among those of the same level. She never draws her sword easily. If she does, she will fight with her life on the line. Be careful, Han Xiaowei. The 4 great core disciples of the sect had their own specialties. Mo Wu's speciality was the way of the sword. Han Xiaowei's expression gradually turned solemn. The moment Mo Wu held the long sword in her hand, he sensed danger, the danger of death. However, at the same time, a wisp of battle intent slowly burned. Good. Let me experience the might of your sword Dao. 3 lives absolute sword. Han Xiaowei stretched out 3 fingers on his right hand. His 3 fingers formed a sword, forming 3 sharp long swords. Every finger emitted a sharp sword aura that was not any weaker than a real sword. The 3 fingers overlapped and the sword chi was oppressive. Rub, rub, rub. Tang Yixuan, who was behind him, involuntarily retreated a few feet. Lowering his head, he saw that his clothes had been pierced through by the sword chi. Through the holes, his body was covered with countless red dots. Tang Yixuan's scalp turned numb. This was only the remnant of the sword energy. If all the sword energy was directed at him, wouldn't he be killed by the 10,000 swords without a sound? Su Yu, who was watching from afar, was shocked. Was this the power of the Dragon Realm? It was difficult for a holy king to comprehend its power. Whoosh! At that moment, Han Xiaowei and Mo Wu disappeared from their original positions. When they reappeared, they were in the space between the two of them. Clang! The sound of metal clashing reverberated through the sky. The sharp sword energy spread in all directions. Creak, with the two of them as the epicenter, all the ancient trees within a 50-meter radius were cut in half. Broken leaves flew in the air and dust flew everywhere. The sound of crackling reverberated through the sky. The destructive power almost destroyed everything. Rub, rub, the 2 figures were in a stalemate for a moment. Han Xiaowei's expression turned serious and he retreated a few steps. His ruddy face gradually turned pale and a trickle of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Between the two of them, It was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. Han Xiaowei's eyes were filled with shock. What a strong will! What is your wish? At the moment they exchanged blows, Han Xiaowei felt a strong will to live from his opponent's sword energy. She did not want to die just because her wish had not been fulfilled? What kind of wish could cause her sword energy to be so sharp? Tang Yixuan, I am not her match. This woman is indeed terrifying. Find the right opportunity to strike. Both of us will work together to capture and kill her. Han Xiaowei was not an inflexible person. In a one-on-one battle, he was slightly inferior to this woman. Naturally, he had to work together to deal with her. Mo Wu's eyes were cold. She held a silver sword in her hand and looked like a goddess of war. She battled fiercely with Han Xiaowei in the sky. Every sword contained the will to defy death. If there were disciples from the sanctum present, they would realize that she was very similar to Su Yu at the Battle of the Fallen Stars. She had to survive in adversity, displaying her great will. Hence, every sword contained an unprecedented power. Furthermore, every sword was sharper than the one before it. Han Xiaowei, who was at the same cultivation level as her, could still fight her initially. However, after that, he could only defend himself. Creak. Finally, Mo Wu's cold sword pierced into Han Xiaowei's shoulder. The tip of the sword turned and a large amount of blood splattered. The intense pain almost caused the sword in Han Xiaowei's hand to fall. Han Xiaowei's heart was pounding. His low voice was filled with urgency and anxiousness. Tang Yixuan. Attack quickly. This woman. She is too terrifying. The more he fought, the more fearful he became. At that moment, he no longer doubted that Mo Wu had the ability to kill someone of the same cultivation level as her. Tang Yixuan's expression was cold. He circled to Mo Wu's back and took advantage of Mo Wu's gap to launch a sneak attack. Mo Wu's expression changed. She slashed her sword and defended herself. However, Han Xiaowei had fought for a long time and was experienced. Although it was only for a short moment, it was enough for him to catch the fatal sword. Whoosh! A shocking scene appeared. The long sword in Han Xiaowei's hand left his hand. A silk thread was controlled by Han Xiaowei's palm. Under the guidance of the silk thread, the sword was aimed at Mo Wu's vital point. Mo Wu was caught off guard. Both of them launched a sneak attack at the same time, and she could only choose to defend herself. Clang! At the critical moment, she chose to defend herself against Han Xiaowei. However, Tang Yixuan's treacherous palm hit her back without any resistance. Puff! Although it was not fatal, this palm had broken several of her meridians. The circulation of her spiritual energy was obstructed. The long sword in her hand shook and she could not hold it any more. Her red lips violently spat out a mouthful of blood. When she was about to attack back furiously, Tang Yixuan had already evaded to one side. He sneered and said, "Bitch, you are still alive after taking 2 of my palms. You are as lucky as your ghost-faced master. You will die for insulting him." Mo Wu's eyes were burning with anger. She actually gave up on Han Xiaowei and chased after Tang Yixuan. It was as if Tang Yixuan had touched her reverse scale. Unexpectedly, Han Xiaowei took the opportunity to attack. "Tang Yixuan, let's do this. Let's join forces and kill this crazy woman here. When we return, we will definitely report to the imperial court." Tang Yixuan was overjoyed when he heard this. His lips curled into a mocking smile. "Come and chase after me. It's a pity that your good looks are going to be buried here today." Mo Wu's heart was filled with sorrow. Was she really going to be buried here? If she were to die, who would fulfill her wish? Haha, Senior Tang seems to be enjoying himself. Why don't you let me join in as well? A ridiculing voice came from the clouds in the sky. Everyone's expression changed slightly. Someone had actually come. Whiz! The white clouds surged and a purple shadow descended from the sky. Silver hair and purple clothes. The unique hair color and clothes were Su Yu's most unique symbol. Although his purple robe was damaged and tattered, His eyes, which were as black as ink and contained stars, emitted a bright light that was difficult to look directly at. Han Xiaowei was slightly stunned. He then shouted coldly, "Tang Yixuan, you little ant, get rid of him immediately!" Hearing this, Tang Yixuan's eyes were filled with an unprecedented joy. He thought that Su Yu had been buried in the ruins of the Forbidden Grounds. Even the shocking jade box had disappeared. He did not expect Su Yu to return alive. The heavens had decided that the shocking jade box, which no one knew about, would belong to him. Su Yu, you actually dared to come out. Now I want to see, other than protecting a woman, what else do you have to rely on? Tang Yixuan was overjoyed. His eyes were filled with passion and he charged towards Su Yu with a flash. Su Yu's expression was calm. He passed through him and landed on Mo Wu's body. He calmly said, "Senior Mo, be careful. Leave Tang Yixuan to me." Mo Wu was surprised at first, then nervous. Finally, she became cold and arrogant. "I, Mo Wu, am enough. I do not need anyone's help. Leave immediately." Su Yu smiled. Even though her life was in danger, Mo Wu still insisted on being alone? Su Yu had once felt that Mo Wu was lonely. Now, he finally understood why she was lonely. It was not that there was no one beside her. It was that there was no one in her heart. She walked alone, slowly on the path of fulfilling her wish. This was Mo Wu's persistence and loneliness. Su Yu did not speak. His gaze landed on Tang Yixuan. A cool breeze caressed his silver hair, revealing a pair of calm eyes. Chapter 170. Following which, Tang Yixuan's identity as a spy of the Empire of Darkness was revealed. All the questions had been answered. Why did Tang Yixuan target Su Yu time and time again? The reason was that Su Yu had killed people from the Empire of Darkness. At the place where Wudong sect's supremacy had passed away, Tang Yixuan had a murderous intent. Su Yu had asked him why he was targeting him. Tang Yixuan had said that Su Yu had killed someone he should not have killed. At first, Su Yu thought it was someone familiar to Lu Guang or Li Hao. He had never thought that Tang Yixuan was referring to the Empire of Darkness silver-clothed guards. Now that he thought about it, the exposure of the location of the Abyss of Wudong and the sudden attack by the Empire of Darkness must have been Tang Yixuan's doing. Seeing that Su Yu did not dodge, Tang Yixuan became vigilant. He secretly looked to his left and right and sneered coldly. "Why? Other than hiding behind a woman's back, do you still have a trump card?" "Trump card? Unfortunately, I do not need to use it to deal with you." Su Yu did not retreat. Instead, he advanced. He gathered a frightening amount of spiritual energy in his palm, and his palm collided with his opponent's. After Tang Yixuan ascertained that there was no ambush in the surroundings, his heart calmed down. A cold smile blossomed on the corner of his mouth. "Tomorrow will be the anniversary of your death." Crackle, however, the scene of Su Yu being struck half dead by the palm did not happen. On the contrary, Tang Yixuan retreated a few steps back. There was a metallic taste in his throat. A wave of vigorous spiritual energy invaded his body and wreaked havoc in every part of it. The ice-cold smile on his face froze. Tang Yixuan gasped, "You break through to 5th level upper tier Holy King? Also, what's with your spiritual energy? How could he be taller than me?" "I will tell you on the anniversary of your death next year," Su Yu said coldly as he strode forward. Whether it was the Wudong sect's Grandmaster's space revealing its murderous intents or the desperate situation at the end of the ruins, Su Yu was determined to kill them all. Tang Yixuan found it hard to believe that in just a few days, Su Yu, who was like a stray dog escaping from his hands, could actually turn the tables and step on his head. Again. Tang Yixuan was unwilling and he shouted angrily. Boom! As they exchanged blows again, Su Yu condensed a mass of purple lotus flowers in his palm. Thunderbolts burst out, and the destructive power was dense. They collided, erupting with peerless might. Puff! Tang Yixuan opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. In the midst of the explosion, he was sent flying. His spiritual energy far surpassed Tang Yishuan's. With the help of his purple star divine lightning, which was at the first level of great perfection, he was able to suppress Tang Yishuan. After wiping off the blood at the corner of his mouth, Tang Yishuan finally accepted the cruel reality. Su Yu was already stronger than him, far stronger than him. Whoosh, without hesitation, Tang Yishuan fled towards the abyss of Wudong. He turned his head and said fiercely, "Follow me if you have the guts." The abyss of Wudong was controlled by the Empire of Darkness. If Su Yu dared to barge in, how could he return alive? "Do you think I'm that stupid?" Su Yu clasped his hands behind his back and stood there calmly. Tang Yishuan, who had escaped far away, ascertained that there was a safe distance between them. Then, he turned around and shouted coldly, "All right. Remember this, if you don't kill me today, there will be a day when I kill your entire family." However, in the face of his threat, Su Yu could only smile mockingly. "Do you think you can live past today? I'm not chasing you because you'll come back obediently." Tang Yishuan was slightly stupefied, and he did not understand what Su Yu meant. All of a sudden, Su Yu's eyes shone with two devilish bright moons. Not good. Tang Yishuan's facial expression changed greatly. However, it was too late for him to react. God-Eye Demon Moon. After consuming the crystal spirit flower, he had broken through to the first stage of the Great Perfection stage, and he could now bewitch experts who were no more than 3 realms above him. Su Yu was a 5th-level upper-tier Holy King, and Tang Yishuan was a 6th-level lower-tier Holy King. In an instant, Tang Yishuan's eyes were filled with confusion. "Go, your enemy is there. Take him down with you." Su Yu's words were calm. However, in Tang Yishuan's ears, there was an indescribable charm that made it hard for him to resist. Tang Yishuan flew toward Han Xiaowei. Boom! Tang Yishuan brazenly attacked Han Xiaowei. The spiritual energy in his body was condensed to the maximum. He was in a valiant and fearless state. Han Xiaowei was currently being suppressed by Mo Wu, so how could he intervene? Tang Yishuan had shattered the meridians in his heart on the spot. "Ah! Tang Yishuan! You trash!" Han Xiaowei flew into a rage. After parrying Mo Wu's attack with his sword, he flipped his hand and grabbed Tang Yishuan's chest. He wanted to get rid of the person in his way first. Puff! How terrifying was the attack of someone at the Dragon Realm? Tang Yishuan's chest was like a piece of paper. It was pierced by the hand claw and his heart was crushed. At this moment, Tang Yishuan woke up from the pain and let out a horrible shriek. In a panic, Tang Yishuan grabbed Han Xiaowei, who was close to him, tightly out of his survival instinct. He screamed hysterically. Not good. Han Xiaowei was furious. The spiritual energy in his body vibrated, and he actually shattered Tang Yishuan's body into pieces. The horrible shriek came to an abrupt end. Blood splattered all over Han Xiaowei's body. Han Xiaowei did not hesitate and immediately retreated. At the moment when he retreated, a swift and fierce sword energy slashed at the spot where he was standing. With a horrible shriek, Han Xiaowei's arm was chopped off by the remnant sword energy. However, he managed to escape with his broken arm. In the blink of an eye, he dashed toward the abyss of Wudong. Mo Wu had been ambushed by Tang Yishuan twice and was seriously injured. How could she catch up with Han Xiaowei? In addition, the abyss of Wudong was controlled by the Empire of Darkness. Chasing after him was no different from walking into a trap. Mo Wu panted a few times. She was a little tired. Her beautiful eyes looked toward Su Yu. Her lips wriggled and turned into an almost undetectable grunt. "Don't think that I will thank you." Su Yu's back was facing her and he did not respond. Mo Wu was slightly angry. "What are you standing there for? Are you waiting for Han Xiaowei to bring people back to take revenge?" Su Yu turned his head and sighed. "Senior Mo, you should leave first." "I might not be able to leave." Mo Wu was slightly stunned and she did not understand what he meant. Just as she was about to open her mouth to ask, a familiar voice came from the forest beneath her feet. "Ha, even though your abilities are weak, your observation skills are ridiculously strong. You can even sense my presence." Whoosh, a red-robed figure appeared, as if he had teleported. He brought with him a strong gust of wind that destroyed everything. Wu fixed her gaze on him and was shocked. Fourth Elder? The person in front of her was a red-robed elder. His expression was solemn and dignified. If he was not the fourth elder of the Lucian faction, who else could he be? Suyu was helpless. "Looks like Senior Mo can't leave either." "Suyu, what nonsense are you spouting? With the fourth elder here, we can successfully escape," Wu lightly complained. Her mind was pondering the meaning behind Suyu's words. Could it be that the fourth elder wanted to harm them? But was that possible? What did they have that was worth the fourth elder taking action? However, the fourth elder let out a light laugh and shattered Wu's last bit of hope. "He is right. I did not want to attack you. Who asked you to be so ungrateful and refuse to leave? Now, don't blame me for making you stay as well." The fourth elder's expression suddenly turned cold. Suyu stared deeply at the fourth elder. "If I am not wrong, the red-eyed ghost that I saw in the abyss of Wudong was you, fourth elder? Divine eyes of red flame. Your disciple, Yang Fan's ultimate technique, was imparted to him by you as his master, right? The red eyes that I saw should be the state you were in when you used the divine eyes of red flame. And the palace at the end of the ruins had already been plundered by you. Even the tunnel at the bottom of the crack and the red flames were left behind by you, right? Fourth elder?" Wu sucked in a breath of cold air. The forbidden ruins had actually been taken by the fourth elder for himself? If this matter was known by the faction, they would definitely join hands to kill him. But immediately, Wu realized that since they knew about this matter, the fourth elder would not let them live. Hearing this, the fourth elder laughed loudly. "I have always thought highly of your intelligence. Now it seems that I have underestimated you. You can actually guess my identity?" The fourth elder could not hide his shock and surprise. His murderous intent gradually deepened. "Originally, I only wanted to kill you to prevent you from spreading the news of the tomb at the bottom of the crack. I did not expect you to even be able to guess who I am. So, all the more I cannot let you live. Since Suyu was able to leave the end of the ruins alive, he must have passed through the crack that appeared due to the earthquake. In other words, Suyu must have noticed the shocking tomb without a tablet. If this matter were to spread back to the faction, it would definitely attract the attention of the faction master and the great elder. At that time, how could he use the ancient remnant souls hidden within? Thus, when he found out that Suyu was still alive, he immediately wanted to kill him. Coupled with the fact that Suyu had previously defeated his disciple and refused to give him the elixir, the narrow-minded fourth elder revealed his murderous intent. The matter was clear. The fourth elder was the evil creature who had tried to use the seal to tame Yunyazi. The reason he had threatened and lured Suyu to hand over the top-grade marrow-cleansing elixir was because Yunyazi needed the elixir. He wanted to use the elixir to lure Yunyazi into submission. A month ago, the earthquake had caused a crack to appear that led to the end of the forbidden ruins. Thus, the fourth elder was able to bypass the light barrier that restricted cultivation levels and quietly enter the ground. He discovered the shocking remnants of the ancient palace and plundered a large amount of treasures. He also discovered Yunyazi, who had appeared due to the loosening of the seal. Spying on Yunyazi's powerful soul, the fourth elder wanted to subdue him for his own use. Thus, he returned to the faction to look for the top-grade marrow-cleansing elixir. But his efforts were in vain. When he had used the seal to force Yunyazi, he had unintentionally triggered the seal, causing Yunyazi to produce an aura of death. He had no choice but to escape, allowing Suyu to take advantage of him. "You have finally shown your true colors? If you want to kill me, you should first think of another enemy." Su Yu's crystalline eyes flashed, shooting toward the other side of the forest. Miss of the Empire of Darkness, it must have been hard for you to watch the show for so long. Aren't you afraid that the enemy will run away? Eh? Not only Mo, but the fourth elder's cold expression also froze. What an interesting lad. What an interesting little fellow. Did you discover me long ago? A voice that was as sweet as a silver bell floated over. It was a graceful young lady with a veil covering her face. Her bright eyes were like crescent moons when she smiled. It's you. Didn't I get rid of you? The fourth elder sucked in a breath of cold air. Previously, during the chase, he had taken the initiative to escape. He had restrained his aura multiple times, changed his direction, and finally managed to shake off this lady. But from Su Yu's words, this young lady had been hiding nearby while he was hiding, looking like she was watching a good show? If that was the case, didn't that mean that he had not escaped from the young lady's control? Originally, I wanted to let you be happy for a while. That would be more interesting. Unfortunately, I was exposed by this lad. Now, the young lady's crescent moon-like eyes were accompanied by her bell-like voice. She suddenly became cold and fierce. Now it is no longer interesting. Old man, surrender, or send you on your way. You decide. Chapter 171. The fourth elder's scalp went numb, and he swallowed hard. How could he still care about Su Yu? Without another word, he fled immediately. The young lady took light steps and chased after Su Yu in the air. Before she left, she turned around and smiled at Su Yu. Her crescent moon-like beautiful eyes were filled with happiness. You should escape quickly. After I take care of that old thing, it will be your turn. You killed my precious snow lion, so I will not let you off easily. With that, the young girl chased after the fourth elder as if she had teleported. Su Yu's whole body shivered. The owner of the snow lion? That day, when Li Xiaowei escaped in a hurry, he had said that Su Yu had killed Miss Hua's spiritual pet and that the Empire of Darkness would come looking for him. Could it be that the young girl before him was Miss Hua? A strong martial artist who could hunt down the fourth elder, Su Yu. He might not even have the strength to fight back. Su Yu, quickly follow me back to the faction. Mo Wu's expression changed. Unexpectedly, after Su Yu pondered it for a moment, a resolute look flashed in his eyes. Senior sister, please go back first. I'm the one she's looking for, so I can't implicate you. However, who knew that Mo Wu was unusually persistent? Her white hands clasped onto Su Yu's shoulders, and her emotionless eyes revealed a rarely seen ripple. I cannot abandon you for the second time. Su Yu had no choice but to secretly look at the jade box in his chest. Yun Yazi's soft sigh reached her ears. There's no other way. Let's bring her along with us. Su Yu was not confident that he could escape Miss Hua's pursuit. Looking at how confident he was, Miss Hua would probably return in no time. An ordinary escape would not be able to escape from Miss Hua's hands. Yun Yazi was grateful to Su Yu for giving him pointers on how to escape. However, he did not expect Mo Wu to be so concerned about him. All right, but senior sister Mo, I hope you can listen to me. Su Yu nodded. Mo Wu's eyes turned cold. Listen to Su Yu? But then he remembered that Su Yu was able to return from the Forbidden Ruins alive, so he must have something special about him. Zhang Xian pondered for a moment before nodding. Sure, but I must agree to it first. I have to take responsibility for you. Su Yu agreed with the first half, but the second half. Su Yu was embarrassed. After exchanging opinions, Mo Wu asked, Tell me your plan. Which direction did he flee to? Where? Su Yu's eyes flickered. The most dangerous place is also the safest place, so why do we need to flee? Stay where you are. At the same place? Mo Wu was slightly startled. As for Su Yu, he had already descended to the ground. Due to the great battle just now, the trees had been destroyed, and there were many places for him to hide. Su Yu chose one of them, dug a pit that was as wide as two people and jumped into it. Mo Wu frowned, The most dangerous place is indeed the safest place. However, in the face of absolute power, all schemes and plots are useless. It is impossible for that young lady to not sense our presence. Suyu revealed a faint smile. Don't worry, I have my ways. Looking at Suyu's confident and calm eyes, Wu could not help but trust him. She clenched her teeth and chose to jump into it. The pit was wide enough for 2 people to sit cross-legged, but it was only enough. Time is tight, please forgive me, senior sister. Suyu apologized, after which, he carefully placed the broken tree branches on top of his head. After which, he used the divine ice threads to pass through the gaps of the roof and carefully covered the soil that he had dug out. From the outside, it seemed as if nothing had changed at all. The only change was that the soil was slightly arching up, but it was also blocked by the broken branches. The 2 of them sat cross-legged in the cave. They could hear their breathing. Wu's face turned slightly red. In order to alleviate the awkwardness, she raised her head and looked at the sky. Suyu was also a little embarrassed, holding his breath and concentrating. At this moment, he heard Yun Yazi's voice. I thought you were only proficient in ice techniques. I did not expect you to cultivate lightning techniques as well. Unfortunately, you are too late, Yun Yazi said regretfully. Previously, Yun Yazi had detected Suyu using Purple Star Thunderbolt to deal with Tang Yishuan. Suyu was slightly stunned. He suddenly remembered the rumor that there was an immortal-level lightning-based technique in the Forbidden Ruins. His eyes were suddenly filled with passion. Elder Yunya, is there really an immortal-level lightning-based technique in the abyss of Wudong? Immortal-level technique? Yun Yazi was slightly stunned. After which, his tone became a little strange. Yes, there is indeed an immortal-level lightning-based technique. However, you are too late. This technique exists in the 10 palaces at the end of the Forbidden Ground. It should have fallen into the hands of the 4th elder that you mentioned. Now, it should have fallen into the hands of that young lady. Suyu's heart instantly turned cold. It had fallen into the hands of Miss Hua? Elder Yunya, with your abilities, what are the chances of you winning against Miss Hua? Suyu asked. If Yun Yazi could defeat her directly, he could snatch the immortal-level technique. But Yun Yazi lightly shook his head. It is not possible now. I should be able to recover my abilities to the same level as her after resting for a few months. After all, she is Dragon Realm level 7 peak. It is difficult for me to reach her level when I have just broken the seal. Suyu gasped. Dragon Realm level 7 peak? To have such abilities at such a young age, it is incredible. Just as he finished exclaiming, the air above his head suddenly changed. Horizon quietly said, She's here. Do not use your eyes to investigate. For a strong martial artist of her level, even a weak gaze can be felt. Suyu's heart trembled. He quietly sent a message to Wu. Wu's expression changed, and she hurriedly retracted her gaze. Whoosh, up in the sky, Miss Hua's crescent eyes surveyed the surroundings. She laughed and muttered to herself, hee hee. There is no aura left in the surroundings. There's no remnant aura in the surroundings. In other words, that little fellow didn't leave? Smiling, Miss Hua's beautiful eyes slowly lowered. The area where her gaze landed was extremely accurate, locking onto the area where Suyu and his group were. They had been discovered. Suyu's expression changed slightly. Wu clenched her jade-like hands nervously, her heart thumping wildly. Interesting. The most dangerous place is the safest place. Does this little kid understand this logic as well? It's a pity that you met me. Miss Hua's eyes narrowed, her slender jade-like fingers pointing downwards. Rumble bang, a 5-meter-deep crater was blasted open at the place she pointed at. But it was not the crater where Suyu and his group were. Suyu was slightly relieved. It looked like they had not been discovered, but Miss Hua had only suspected them. Suyu felt grateful, quietly sending a message. Thank you, Elder, for using your soul to envelop us and isolate our auras. That was the reason why Su Yu dared to stay there. Yun Yazi had used his powerful soul to envelop the two of them in secret, isolating their auras. That was why they were not discovered by the powerful Miss Hua. But the situation was not optimistic. Miss Hua's crescent moon-like smile became even more brilliant. "This is more interesting, much more interesting than that old thing." Rumble, bang, with another flick of her finger, an area 100 feet away from the crater where Su Yu was blasted into pieces on the spot. Hee, interesting, interesting. Let's see how long you can hide." Miss Hua was full of smiles, her fingertips sighing continuously. Rumble, bang, bang, as Miss Hua continued to tap, the entire place was filled with the sounds of explosions. Large patches of land were blasted to the point of rolling, and everything within sight had been reduced to charred ruins. Horrifying deep pits rose and fell one after another, messily strung together. The pits were full of holes like a string of broken pearls. Miss Hua's smile gradually disappeared. Within the area she had locked onto, it was a scene of desolation. Only 2 or 3 patches of land that were as wide as water jars were intact. But Su Yu's figure was nowhere to be seen. Could it be? Miss Hua stared at the remaining 3 patches of land that were as wide as water jars, slightly embarrassed and angry. To think that she had blasted a patch of land indiscriminately. In the end, it was like playing the lute to a cow. "Humph! I don't believe I can't find you." Miss Hua's cold eyes swept past, shooting in the opposite direction of Lucien faction. Before she left, she casually struck a patch of land that was as wide as water jars. But there was still no one there. At this point, Miss Hua had completely given up. Her crescent moon eyes were filled with shame and anger as she chased after Su Yu. What she did not know was that one of the 2 remaining patches of land that were as wide as water jars was where Su Yu and Mo Wu were. Although the explosion just now did not blow up their cave, it had caused the cave to crumble. The strong energy of the explosion caused the patch of land behind Su Yu to collapse, pressing down on his back. Due to the angle, Su Yu pounced forward. His head coincidentally entered the ravine between Mo Wu's breasts. The hot, soft, bouncy, and smooth sensation instantly filled his face. Su Yu was shocked. Just as he was about to sit up, the patch of land behind him shook slightly due to his movements. Not good. Su Yu immediately stopped moving, his expression extremely grave. But at this moment, Mo Wu's icy cold voice could be heard. "Get up!" If one observed carefully, Mo Wu's voice was trembling. Her icy face was as red as a red veil. Her breathing had also quickened, extremely labored. She, who had lost the rhythm of her breathing, rose and fell rapidly, causing Su Yu's face to feel even more pressured. Su Yu transmitted his voice gravely. "Senior Mo, don't move." She did not leave. As if to prove Su Yu's words, with a whooshing sound, a gust of wind came from above their heads. It was Miss Hua, who had left and returned. Standing on top of their heads, Miss Hua surveyed the surroundings coldly, letting out a cold voice. "Humph! She is really not here." After saying this, she left in a flash. In the underground cave, Su Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Mo Wu's heart, which had risen to her throat, gradually calmed down. After which, she felt the difference between her breasts. Her face turned red in an instant. She bit her teeth and sent a message. "Get up!" Su Yu's expression did not change, remaining stern. "Don't move." If she had really left, she would not have spoken in front of everyone. Mo Wu was going crazy. She could not push Su Yu away, but she could not bear the thought of a man collapsing in her most sacred and sensitive spot. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, an hour had passed. Su Yu collapsed between her breasts, inhaling the wonderful fragrance and enjoying the softness. Unfortunately, Su Yu could not split his attention to appreciate it. His nerves were tense, not daring to relax. Whoosh! Finally, Su Yu's prediction was right. Miss Hua had returned. Her expression had changed from a smile to one of exasperation. Her beautiful eyes surveyed the surroundings coldly, biting her teeth. Little B** starred. Although I do not know what method you used to hide, you should be proud of yourself for being able to avoid my detection. But remember this. One day, I will catch you personally. Miss Hua was furious. She stomped her feet ferociously, wanting to fly away. However, her subconscious stomping of her feet made her feel that something was amiss. There seemed to be a hole in the ground beneath her feet. Chapter 172. The game is over. Miss Hua tapped her feet lightly and the ground beneath her feet exploded. The violent explosion produced a frightening energy, causing Su Yu and Mo Wu's expressions to change. An illusion of death surged wildly in their hearts. They had finally been discovered. Mo Wu's beautiful eyes were filled with determination. "Let's fight!" But a muffled voice came from the two peaks. "Sigh, I can only use my last resort." Space control. Su Yu roared in his heart. His wine-red right eye glowed with a red light, illuminating the narrow cave. Whoosh, a strange scene appeared. Su Yu and Mo Wu, who were wrapped in the red light, disappeared at the same time. At the critical moment, Su Yu teleported himself and Mo Wu. At that moment, the explosion descended. Soil flew in all directions and the ground cracked. The cave that Su Yu and Mo Wu were hiding in was instantly exposed. But looking at it, it was empty, only filled with the remnants of their auras. Miss Hua's smile froze. Her gaze turned cold as she looked at the last piece of ground that was still intact. But Su Yu was nowhere to be seen. Miss Hua's smile turned cold. "Although I do not know what method you used to escape, the temperature and aura in the cave mean that you left not long ago." Her bright eyes narrowed as she coldly looked at the surroundings. But at that moment, a series of pathetic cries came from the abyss of Wudong. A fiery red figure broke free from his restraints and charged into the sky, turning into a ray of red light as it disappeared into the horizon. Miss Hua's expression turned cold. "Old thing. He actually escaped." Whoosh, after hesitating for a moment, Miss Hua clenched her teeth and let out a low grunt. Little B** starred, remember this. Don't even think of escaping from me next time. Saying this, she shot into the horizon and returned to the abyss of Wudong. What happened? I have already sealed his meridians and he is no different from a cripple. I even took all the treasures on him. Why did you let him escape? Miss Hua descended. Han Xiaowei covered his bleeding arm and said doubtfully. He used self-mutilation to break his sealed meridians and forcefully activate a treasure hidden in his mouth to escape at a shocking speed. Miss Hua was furious. There was a treasure hidden in his mouth? Old thief. I was too careless. Miss Hua, what should we do? Han Xiaowei asked unwillingly. It seemed that Miss Hua was unable to capture the two people who had severed her arms alive. Frowning slightly, Miss Hua said coldly, "Don't bother about them for the time being. Search the abyss of Wudong first. That which is waiting for us to hand over the cultivation methods that we have collected." The scorched land was silent and devoid of life. All of a sudden, a head popped out from the ground. Although he was in a sorry state, he could not hide his joy. It was Su Yu, who had just escaped. Immediately after, a jade-like face covered in dust drilled out of the ground. It was Mo Wu. Delight and surprise appeared on her pretty face as she asked, "Su Yu, how did you do it?" Before she could finish her sentence, Mo Wu stopped abruptly. The two of them were almost face to face. Their lips touched, almost kissing each other. Especially when Mo Wu moved her red lips, it was inevitable that their lips would come into close contact. In a split second, Mo Wu's face turned red and she almost screamed. "You! Shameless!" Mo Wu's embarrassment turned into anger. She recalled the scene in the cave where he shamelessly lay between her breasts for a full hour. She wished she could find a hole to hide in. Until now, she still felt that her breasts were swollen and numb. Su Yu also felt awkward. He immediately turned his head and crawled out from the ground. Shaking off the soil on his body, Su Yu and Mo Wu had a tacit understanding. Without another word, they immediately left the area. After flying continuously for a day and a night, Suyu had no choice but to stop and rest temporarily after his spirit energy was depleted. Since she did not chase after us for a day, I think that young lady will not chase after us. Mo heaved a sigh of relief. Her fragrant body slumped onto the ground as she recalled the events of the previous day. The appearance of the Empire of Darkness was too sudden. That oppressive power made people shudder with fear. The 9 6th-level Holy Kings were all captured within an hour. The 4th Elder was also captured alive by the mysterious Miss Hua. This matter must be reported to the faction immediately. Mo muttered to herself. Suyu adjusted his breathing for a moment and opened his eyes slightly. This matter is of great importance. Senior Mo, please return to the faction first. I cannot drag you down. In terms of speed, Suyu was no match for Mo. After some thought, knowing that Suyu was safe, Mo nodded her head. All right. However, there is only 1.5 months left until the Xianyan contest. With your speed, even if you were to travel, you would need about a month. You cannot delay during the journey. Otherwise, if you miss the ancient Xianyan temple and Qin Xianer faces the threat of death, I will help you hand her over to Chao Xian. Her last sentence made Su Yu's heart tremble. He nodded his head. I understand. I, Su Yu, can save my own woman. There is no need for me to beg others. It's good that you understand. However, I have to remind you that there are only 20 slots in the ancient Xianyan temple. Furthermore, the person who is ranked in the top 20 in the sect is at least a 7th-level peak Holy King. Your current strength is still far from that, Mo warned. Every disciple of the faction's 10 elders was a strong martial artist of the Dragon Realm. The remaining 10 places were occupied by all the 7th-level peak Holy Kings. Suyu could easily deal with a 6th-level lower-tier Holy King. However, a 7th-level peak Holy King was too far away. With a calm expression, Suyu cupped his fists and said, I have never given up hope. You're on your own. Mo looked at Suyu deeply and flew away. After some time, Suyu's hands, which were in his sleeves, trembled uncontrollably. To Suyu, a 7th-level peak Holy King was too far away. How could he reach the level of a 7th-level peak Holy King in just a month and a half? Even though his expression was calm, his heart could not be at peace. However, thinking of Xianer's petite face, Suyu's heart gradually became determined. The person that I, Suyu, want to save? Who can snatch her? Even the heavens cannot. Suyu took a deep breath. His eyes filled with a strong rebellious intent. In his entire life, he had risen from a humble beginning. He had gone against fate and the heavens to achieve what he had today. He would not give up easily until the very last moment. It was because of this rebellious intent that Suyu had walked step by step to where he was today. However, the gap between him and a 7th-level Holy King was difficult to make up for. Suyu found it difficult to find a way to train. Haha, your willpower is not bad. It is similar to that little girl's charm. Both of you have a willpower that refuses to admit defeat. Yun Yazi smiled as he leisurely said. Suyu calmed the waves in his heart and regained his calm expression. With a tinge of bitterness, he said, How can everything in this world be decided by willpower? What I do is to have a clear conscience. When I am in despair, I can tell myself that I have fought and fought for it, that I have no regrets. No regrets. Yun Yazi sighed. He was silent for a moment, as if he was thinking and hesitating. After an unknown amount of time, he made up his mind and said, Suyu, are you willing to become my disciple? Become your disciple? Suyu's heart trembled. Yun Yazi was unfathomable and was a divine being. Suyu had never hoped to become his disciple. Suyu realized that perhaps becoming Yun Yazi's disciple would be another turning point in his life. In his life, there were 2 people who had turned his life around. The first was the Duke of Xianyu, who was also his father-in-law. It was he who had given Su Yu a chance to enter a wider stage. The second was Li Guang, his master in name. It was he who had given Su Yu a chance to enter the Zhenlong continent, the real world. And now Yun Yazi was the third person to change Su Yu's fate. Intuition told Su Yu that he would change Su Yu's life. But Su Yu thought back to Li Guang before his death. He thought back to Li Guang's gratified smile when he heard Su Yu call him master. Su Yu's face showed a deep struggle. On one hand, he was a powerful martial artist, a lifetime opportunity. On the other hand, he was indebted to his master. Su Yu was caught between a rock and a hard place. After a long time, Su Yu gently lifted his head and sighed. "Thank you, Elder Yun Yazi, for your kindness. I once had a master in name, but he died because of me. I have not avenged him, so I cannot choose another master." It was as if he had used the last of his strength to say these words. Su Yu knew that he had missed the greatest opportunity of his life. But at the same time, he knew that his conscience had been baptized. Even if he had to be mediocre for the rest of his life, Su Yu had no regrets as he thought back to this day. "Are you sure about your choice? I, Yun Yazi, have only taken in one disciple in name only. Today, that disciple can destroy all the powerful martial artists of the Zhenlong continent with a single hand. Your faction will be destroyed by my disciple in name only with a flick of his finger. He begged me to take him in as my official disciple all his life, but I never agreed. Now are you sure about your choice?" Su Yu's heart trembled as he gasped. A disciple in name could look down on all the powerful martial artists of the Zhenlong continent? How powerful would that person be? What kind of mythical existence was Yun Yazi, his master? Deep within Su Yu's heart, he was shocked. But the shock in his heart did not affect Su Yu's judgment. Taking a deep breath, Su Yu said apologetically, "My choice is still the same. I cannot forget my master's kindness. I do not regret my decision today." Su Yu sighed in his heart. He knew that he had completely cut off the greatest opportunity of his life. No expert could tolerate their disciple worshipping another master in their heart. That would be disrespectful and humiliating to him. But what Su Yu did not expect was that, after a moment of silence, Yun Yazi suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. His laughter was clear and bright, reaching the heavens. It was as if he had not laughed so heartily in a long time. "Junior, I have seen countless people in my life, but this is the first time I have seen someone as stupid as you." Su Yu laughed at himself. "That's right. Apart from me, who would reject Elder Yun Yazi's kindness?" Su Yu felt bitter in his heart. He had missed the greatest opportunity of his life. But Yun Yazi's tone changed. "But it is the first time I have seen someone as stupid as you who values kindness and loyalty." Gradually, Yun Yazi's tone became melancholic, as if recalling the past. "If I had met you first back then, I would not have ended up like this." Su Yu was stunned. It seemed that Yun Yazi had a past that no one knew about. This old man was blind once. This time, this old man will gamble again. Whoosh, within the jade box, Yun Yazi's soul body surged out, transforming into a human figure. His white robe fluttered, and his white hair and beard fluttered without wind. His eyes were like the sun and moon, bright and resplendent. His old face was solemn and dignified. A formless emperor's aura surged around his body. A clear voice pierced through the clouds, reverberating between heaven and earth. Chapter 173. Su Yu sighed. "Senior, thank you for your kindness, but you don't have to rush to answer me now. You can answer me after you've avenged your master." Yun Yazi smiled. Su Yu was excited and grateful. He bowed and said, "Thank you, Elder Yunya. However, I won't interfere in your master's vengeance. You'll have to avenge it yourself. This is my respect for you, and it's also my test for you before you take me as your master. If you're unable to complete it, then I'll have to reconsider taking you as my disciple." Yun Yazi added, "That's exactly what I had in mind." As a disciple, how could I let an outsider avenge my teacher? Su Yu was grateful for Yun Yazi's respect. Yun Yazi nodded in satisfaction. Haha, good. Until you have avenged your master, I will stay in your jade box. As a reward for living here, I will guide you in your cultivation carefully for the next month and a half. At the same time that Su Yu was pleasantly surprised, his eyes were a little gloomy. If he had met Yun Yazi earlier, he might have had a chance of defeating a 7th-level peak Holy King. However, it was already too late. The distance between a 5th-level upper-tier Holy King and a 7th-level peak Holy King was like the distance between heaven and earth. In just a month and a half, there was almost no possibility of making up for it. As if he had seen through Su Yu's thoughts, Yun Yazi chuckled. What's so difficult about a mere 7th-level peak? If you follow my guidance, it would not be a problem for you to reach the Dragon Realm in a month and a half. Su Yu was terrified and shocked. His throat seemed to be blocked by something. He himself did not even dare to hope for a 7th-level peak Holy King, but Yun Yazi could help him achieve the Dragon Realm quickly? However, the prerequisite is that you must be able to endure hardship, Yun Yazi added lightly. Hearing this, Su Yu laughed. Suffer? If I, Su Yu, was afraid of suffering, I would still be a nameless student on Xinyue Island. Since that's the case, let's begin. The corners of Yun Yazi's mouth curled into a playful smile. He pointed at the huge rock at the foot of the hill and said, "Carry it." When Su Yu looked over, the corners of his mouth twitched. It was a giant rock with a diameter of 5 feet. It weighed at least 2 tons, which was equivalent to a small car in his previous life. With such a weight on one's body, an ordinary person's bones would definitely break. However, Su Yu's constitution had been improved to such an extent that he had transcended ordinary people. Su Yu took a light breath and tried to use the strength of his flesh and blood. However, the giant rock did not budge an inch. With a single thought, Zhang Xian circulated his spiritual energy and circulated it through his flesh and blood. In an instant, his strength increased tremendously. With a low grunt, Su Yu grabbed the gap between the rocks with both of his hands. Exerting strength in both of his arms, the 2-ton rock finally left the ground and was lifted by Su Yu. Although it felt heavy, with the help of spiritual energy, it wasn't difficult. Elder, now that I've carried the giant rock, how should I train next? Su Yu's eyes were filled with anticipation. However, Yun Yazi casually said, "Boulder? I want you to carry that small mountain." Boom! Su Yu's body stiffened, and the giant rock in his hand smashed onto the ground with a loud bang. Small hill? Su Yu raised his head stiffly and looked at the small hill in front of him. It was at least 30 feet tall, its towering shadow enveloping the tiny Su Yu. At a glance, this small mountain weighed at least 100 tons. "Senior, are you sure it's this hill?" Su Yu's mouth was dry. With such a weight on his body, even the current Su Yu would be crushed into minced meat. However, Yun Yazi said calmly, "Why, is it very heavy?" Whoosh! Yun Yazi flicked his sleeves and a rumbling sound could be heard. The entire small hill was lifted from the ground by his soul energy and floated several meters into the air. "Catch!" Yun Yazi calmly said, flicking his finger. Whoosh! Rumble! The entire small hill, with a rumbling sound, pressed down on Su Yu. "Is this training, or is this for my life?" Su Yu's expression changed. At the critical moment, he desperately revolved his spiritual energy. However, Su Yu's intuition told him that even if he used all his spiritual energy, Su Yu would still be crushed into minced meat. Glazed ice flame. Su Yu's entire body was burning with a 60-foot ice flame, freezing everything. Yun Yazi was calm, leaning against a big tree and nodding his head. Ice-based cultivation technique. Among the legacies, it is considered the best. It has the shadow of an immortal-level cultivation technique, but it is still weak and its power is average. Even though the ice flame was activated to its maximum, The small hill was not obstructed and was crushed. The 60-foot ice flame only held the small hill back for a moment before it was completely extinguished. At this critical moment, Su Yu did not hold back. Divine Ice Battle Armor. Creak. The divine ice ring in his robes shot out countless divine ice threads, quickly weaving them into a mighty armor that covered Su Yu's body. It made his frail body look valiant and extraordinary. The ice flame grew from 60 feet to 70 feet. Yun Yazi's calm eyes had a slight ripple. Oh? An ice-based divine artifact? And forcefully controlled by you? Unfortunately, you can only unleash 30% of the divine artifact's power. Average. Rumble. The 70-feet ice flame lasted for 2 breaths before it was extinguished again. Seeing the small hill pressing down on him, Su Yu clenched his teeth and used everything he had learned. Heavenly punishment of ice and thunder. The half-divine grade holy decree pierced through the air, shooting straight toward the small hill. Yun Yazi's eyes revealed a rare look of admiration. Comprehending a half-divine grade holy decree at the age of 15 is enough to show that your level of comprehension is not bad. Furthermore, there is a natural rhythm within the holy decree. Unfortunately, you have only scratched the surface and its power is average. The small hill did not stop, pressing down with a rumble. It was only a meter away from Su Yu. At the last moment, Su Yu clenched his teeth. Space control. The red light filled the sky, enveloping the small hill in an attempt to move it away. But the target was too big, and it could not be moved. Yun Yazi's old eyes finally revealed a serious expression. What surprises me the most is your ability to control space. If I am not wrong, you should be an abnormal spirit. You have the talent to control space, but your talent is weak. What a pity. There was only half a meter left. He could not hold on any longer. Su Yu's left eye flickered with a purple light. The seal of time was unleashed. In an instant, the small hill froze in midair. Yun Yazi stood up abruptly, his face filled with shock. Innate time talent? How is that possible? You can control both time and space talents at the same time? Time was king, space was god. Mastering either one of the talents would allow one to stand at the same level. But Su Yu could control both at the same time. Even Yun Yazi, who had exceptional eyesight and boundless experience, was deeply shocked. After observing for a moment, Yun Yazi was slightly disappointed. Although the innate time talent is stronger than space, it is still not strong enough. It can still be used in the Holy King realm, but it is useless in the Dragon realm. The small hill crushed the seal of time, finally suppressing it completely. Su Yu let out a low roar. He wore the divine ice battle armor and defended himself crazily. But the absolute pressure caused Su Yu to have no way of resisting, and he was suppressed on the spot. Puff! Su Yu opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He was crushed to the ground. The intense pressure caused his internal organs to tremble, and his body felt like it was about to explode. But the scene of him being crushed into minced meat did not happen. Su Yu was bewildered. After careful observation, he realized that there was a layer of weak soul energy circulating above the small hill. I have used my soul energy to hold the small hill. Currently, it is only a tenth of the small hill's weight. In a month and a half, you will carry this small hill and train until you reach the abilities of a 7th-level peak Holy King. Of course, if you cannot take the pain and give up halfway, you can still put down the small hill. But you will also lose the right to be my disciple. If you cannot even take this little bit of pain, you will not be able to achieve anything in the future. Su Yu could not even move his fingers under the pressure, but he circulated all the energy in his body, clenching his teeth. I will not give up. All right, then start training. 1/3 of the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir's power is sealed in your body. You can start to absorb it now. Yun Yazi sat down again, slowly closing his eyes. This is the first step of your training. Stand up. Before this, Su Yu had absorbed 1/3 of the top-grade marrow cleansing elixir's power, and Yun Yazi had also absorbed 1/3. The remaining 1/3 was completely sealed in Su Yu's body. Whoosh! Su Yu had difficulty breathing under the pressure, his face flushed red. But he still listened to Yun Yazi's suggestion, gradually releasing the seal. At that moment, the spirit energy in his body spread. It was like a flood or a ferocious beast, engulfing Su Yu's meridians. A feeling of being filled to the brim by the violent energy welled up in his heart, causing his heart to thump wildly. Looking at Yun Yazi, he had closed his eyes and was meditating, completely unaware that Su Yu was in danger. With no one to help him, Su Yu clenched his teeth, crazily revolving the blood in his body to disperse the explosive power of the elixir to every part of his body. The intense pain continued, but Su Yu was pleasantly surprised to find that, under the extreme pressure, the circulation of his blood was much faster than usual. The explosive power was dispersed to every part of his body at an extremely fast speed, avoiding the danger of his body exploding. Although the pain was unbearable, causing Su Yu to clench his teeth and break out in a cold sweat, it was not as comfortable as when Yun Yazi used his soul to guide the flow of energy. But he relied on his own strength to gradually clear the violent energy. At that moment, Yun Yazi, who was resting with his eyes closed, calmly said, "A person's potential will only be unleashed in a desperate situation. I am unable to provide you with a truly desperate situation, but I can provide you with extreme pressure. In such a situation, your training will be twice the result with half the effort." Su Yu suddenly understood Yun Yazi's intentions. Filled with gratitude, he desperately absorbed the elixir's power, seeking a breakthrough in his cultivation base. After a few hours, a buzzing sound could be heard in Su Yu's mind. Under the violent energy, he had finally broken through to 5th level peak Holy King. Rise. The breakthrough in his cultivation base was accompanied by the explosive increase of his spirit energy and the improvement of his physique. Su Yu clenched his teeth, let out a low roar, and climbed up with difficulty. Rumble. The small mountain on his body shook continuously, as if there was a frightening thing at the bottom of the mountain that was trying to break free from its suppression. Su Yu's forehead was dripping with beads of sweat. He clenched his teeth so hard that his white teeth looked like they were about to shatter. The bones in his 4 limbs were making crackling sounds, and there were faint signs of them breaking. But Su Yu climbed up bit by bit. Although it was difficult and slow, he slowly climbed up. Finally, after a cup of tea's time, Su Yu successfully climbed up, carrying the entire small mountain on his shoulders. A trickle of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. He was in a sorry state after being suppressed for a long time, but he could not hide the joy in his eyes. "Elder, I have stood up." Yun Yazi slowly opened his eyes, nodding his head slightly. "You are 2 hours faster than I expected. You are indeed more determined than an average person. Since that is the case, let's begin the second step of training, walk." The first step was to stand up. The second step was to walk. Everything was like a baby, starting from scratch. Under Yun Yazi's guidance, Su Yu felt that he had obtained a new lease of life on his path of training. Su Yu calmed his heart, carrying the small mountain, and once again tried his best to absorb the remaining elixir's power. Yun Yazi was satisfied with Su Yu's hard work in training, and a mysterious smile flashed past his lips. "If you successfully take this step, I will bring you to a place that is your dream. That place will be the place where you achieve the abilities of a dragon realm." Chapter 174. The Place of My Dreams? In Yun Yazi's eyes, what kind of sacred place would it be to be called a dream? Su Yu found it hard to imagine. These words made Su Yu excited, and he absorbed the medicinal power with all his might. Under the heavy pressure, the circulation of his blood accelerated. The medicinal power flowed into his limbs and bones at an unprecedented speed, causing Su Yu's cultivation level to rise rapidly. Finally, after a few hours, the last bit of medicinal power was used up. Su Yu's mind buzzed. He had broken through to 6th level Holy King. In the Forbidden Grounds, Su Yu had spent a day to digest and absorb 1/3 of the medicinal power. But now, under the heavy pressure, Su Yu had only spent half a day. Just as Yun Yazi had said, under extreme circumstances, his potential exploded and he could achieve twice the results with half the effort. 6th level Holy King. Su Yu could not believe that he had broken through so quickly. Before coming to the abyss of Wudong, Su Yu had barely broken through to 4th level upper tier Holy King. But in just half a month, he had become a 6th level Holy King. It was like a dream. If he had not experienced it himself, Su Yu would not have believed it. The unprecedented power had caused Su Yu's confidence to soar. Xianyun contest. Shi Rulin, Chao Xian, Han Ji. All of you, just you wait. I, Su Yu, am catching up to all of you. Very soon I will take off all of your heads. Restraining his surging emotions, Su Yu looked at his toes, clenched his teeth and took a step forward. Lifting his left leg, his right leg, which was the only support, bore all the pressure. Crack! A light cracking sound indicated that the bones in Su Yu's right leg had slightly cracked. A piercing pain came from his leg, causing Su Yu to gasp. At that moment, if he moved even slightly, his right leg could be completely crushed into minced meat. But restraining the pain, Su Yu clenched his teeth and took a step forward with his left leg. Rumble, his left leg landed on the ground. Under the heavy pressure, it was as if a meteorite had fallen to the ground, causing a light explosion under his foot. A terrifying footprint, 1 meter wide and half a meter deep, was clearly visible. He had finally taken this step. Yun Yazi, who was sitting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes slightly. His pupils were filled with admiration, half a day faster than I expected. Leisurely getting up, Yun Yazi smiled. If that's the case, I should fulfill my promise. As your reward for successfully taking the first step, I will bring you to a place. Whoosh! Yun Yazi waved his big sleeves. At once, Su Yu felt a heavenly wind blowing in his face. The irresistible air current swept him and Xiao Shan into the 9 heavens. The wind howled in his ears as his speed reached its pinnacle. Compared to the sex eagle, it was more than 10 times faster. Such speed, was it really achieved by a soul body? How strong was Yun Yazi? Was he really not as good as Miss Hua? At that moment, Su Yu could not help but suspect that Yun Yazi had deliberately concealed his abilities. As if he had seen through Su Yu's thoughts, Yun Yazi had a faint smile on his face. You do not need to guess about my abilities. You only need to remember one thing. You have to rely on yourself for everything. Regardless of whether you become my disciple in the future, the only thing I can help you with is cultivation. If you want to be enemies with others, that's your own business. I definitely won't interfere. Even if you're beaten to death in front of me, I won't interfere. At most, after you die, I will kill the person who killed your disciple. Su Yu's heart turned cold. What a cruel method. However, after thinking about it, Su Yu felt relieved. Before he had a master, didn't Su Yu still rely on himself, working hard step by step? Now, with the additional guidance of a master, it was already a great fortune. Whether Yun Yazi helped or not did not affect Su Yu. Yes, I understand. Half a day later, the wind beside his ears stopped. Su Yu was dizzy. When his feet touched the ground, he felt a huge pressure on his back. Shocked, he immediately clenched his teeth and carried the small mountain with all his might. Crack! A cracking sound came from beneath his feet. It was the sound of ice breaking. Su Yu was surprised. Lowering his head to look, he was actually standing on an ice lake that stretched as far as the eye could see. The surface of the lake was covered in a layer of white ice that was dozens of feet thick. Even though Su Yu was carrying the small mountain that weighed 100 tons, he did not break the ice. At the same time, a bone-chilling cold engulfed him. Crack! A strange scene ensued. Su Yu's feet were actually frozen on the ice. If it was a normal person, it might not be strange. However, Su Yu was an ice-based martial artist who could condense cold energy into ice flames, who would not be afraid of the cold energy within his body. But he was actually frozen. This place is the incredible Ice Divine Lake, thousands of miles away from the abyss of Wudong. The cold energy within the lake contains thousands of years of condensed ice. Even a Dragon Realm martial artist would be instantly annihilated upon contact. As for the cold energy on your body, cripple yourself. Even if you don't feel ashamed, I feel ashamed. Yun Yazi sat leisurely on the surface of the lake. The extreme cold energy could not get close to him. At this moment, he slightly rolled his eyes with a look of disdain. Cripple? Su Yu's mouth twitched. He had obtained these 2 ice flames through a narrow escape. But Su Yu also knew that these 2 ice flames had not been used for a long time. As the enemies he met gradually became stronger, the blue-green ice flame could no longer keep up with his progress. The incredible ice in the lake will continuously emit ice flames, called the incredible icy raging flame. Its power is average, but with your cultivation level, you can at most absorb 3 balls of it. If you absorb 1 ball, it would not be a problem for you to break through a level with the few ice-based legacy level cultivation techniques you have. If you can absorb 3 balls, coupled with your level of comprehension, it would not be difficult for you to cultivate all of them. But how much you can absorb will depend on your own willpower and effort. I will not help you. Su Yu's breathing quickened, his eyes filled with a fiery glow. This place was indeed the holy land of his dreams for an ice-based martial artist like him. Glazed ice flame, icy divine wings, and sigh of ice, these 3 legacy-level cultivation techniques only needed 1 ball of incredible icy raging flame to break through a level? By the way, let me remind you that if you stay at the same spot on the lake for too long, you will be eaten by the incredible ice sea demon. So, hurry up and move. As if to prove Yun Yazi's words, 100-meter-long giant black catfish faintly swam up from the 10-meter-deep surface of the lake. Its dense red eyes revealed a look of greed as it coldly stared at Su Yu, who was on the surface of the lake. Then, its huge head smashed upwards with a rumble. Rumble bang, the surface of the lake shook violently. The 10-meter-thick icicles were smashed in half. Su Yu staggered, nearly falling. His pupils dilated. Dragon Realm. Yun Yazi had a faint smile. Not bad, Dragon Realm. Furthermore, you are not much weaker than your senior sister, Dragon Realm Level 1 peak. If you do not wish to be eaten, hurry up and move. Dragon Realm. Level 1 peak? Su Yu was horrified. A shiver spread from his feet to his entire body. Seeing the giant catfish attack again, Su Yu hurriedly shifted his feet. But, under the huge pressure, Su Yu's movements were as slow as a snail. He only managed to take a step forward with great difficulty. At this moment, under the huge impact, the layer of ice beneath his feet was smashed to pieces, leaving only a thin layer of skin. The giant catfish's eyes were filled with a human-like mockery. Its giant body once again dived into the water, preparing for an even more terrifying attack. Su Yu's feet felt cold, his blood surging. In this moment of crisis, the spirit energy in his body circulated at an unprecedented speed. Under the pressure of death, Su Yu's potential was once again unearthed. Thud, thud, thud. Su Yu took a few steps forward, carrying the small mountain on his back. At this critical moment, he stepped out of the shattered ice. At this moment, thump, crash, the head of a giant catfish, hundreds of meters tall, opened its bloody mouth and rushed out of the ice, swallowing the place where Su Yu stood. Su Yu was only a few meters away from falling into the giant catfish's mouth. But the giant catfish did not return to the water. Instead, its blood-red eyes were filled with mockery. It forcefully climbed onto the ice surface, crawling quickly along the smooth ice surface, chasing after Su Yu. Su Yu gasped. At this moment, he had even forgotten that there was a small mountain on his back. Striding forward, he circulated all his spirit energy, frantically escaping for his life. From taking a step with great difficulty, to walking slowly, to sprinting, and finally, he could finally run. Luckily, the giant catfish was not used to crawling on land, hence its speed was not fast. Suyu could barely maintain his distance. But in the long run, Suyu's spirit energy would be depleted, and the distance between them would decrease. At this moment, Suyu suddenly saw a ball of fiery red flames slowly floating out from the mouth of the lake where the giant catfish had crawled out from. The incredible icy raging flame has appeared. Whether or not you can obtain it is up to you. That was the incredible icy raging flame? Suyu's eyes were burning. Unfortunately, there was only one ball. According to Yunyazi, the incredible icy raging flame was far inferior to the incredible ice, and its power was average. But a scene that shocked Suyu occurred. Once it floated out, the huge mouth of the ice lake was frozen, once again turning into a layer of ice that was dozens of meters deep. At the same time, the entire surface of the lake was quickly covered by the fiery red ice flame, causing the layer of ice on the surface of the lake to deepen by 5 meters. Looking over, the entire surface of the lake looked as if it was burning with a layer of fiery red flames. The ice flame attacked. The giant catfish's huge body was covered by the fiery red ice flame, quickly turning into a layer of red ice. The ice entered its marrow, and the giant catfish howled in pain. Its flesh was rapidly turning into red ice shards. Its life force was quickly extinguished. Thump, with a crisp sound, the giant ice sculpture of the giant catfish shattered in the air, turning into pieces of red crystalline ice shards. A dragon realm demonic beast as strong as Mo Wu had actually turned into ice shards. Suyu swallowed hard. What a frightening ice flame. This power was considered average? Compared to it, the blue-green ice flame in Suyu's body was like an unsightly piece of trash. But the fiery red ice flame did not let Suyu off. It was like a flame, howling as it engulfed him. Suyu, who was carrying the small mountain, had a change of expression, hurriedly escaping from the ice lake. At this moment, he finally realized how ridiculous it was for him to try and obtain 3 balls of ice flame. Not to mention 3 balls, even 1 ball would be enough to kill him 100 times over. Yunyazi was calm and unruffled, revealing a playful smile. I forgot to tell you. Even that Dragon Realm Level 7 Miss Hua would not dare to covet an entire ball of incredible icy raging flame. Lad, I wonder how many balls you were planning to collect just now? The veins on Suyu's forehead throbbed. He wanted to curse. Why didn't Yunyazi say so earlier? Even though the incredible icy raging flame was an ice flame emitted by incredible ice, it was still abnormally frightening. Suyu had no time to reply. His soul was about to leave his body. With the small mountain on his back, his feet moved as if he was flying. Thump, thump, thump. Every step Suyu took was like an earthquake, causing the ice surface to creak. But the terrifying fiery red ice flame behind him was even faster than Suyu. Luckily, Suyu was not far from the shore. He was only about 10 steps away. The fiery red ice flame engulfed him. Suyu fled for his life. He was only 9 steps away. 8 steps. 7 steps. The incredible icy raging flame was less than 5 meters away from Suyu. Thud, 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 4 steps. 3 steps. 2 steps. 1 step. Thump. At the critical moment, Suyu successfully jumped onto the shore. The incredible icy raging flame struck the shore, stopping abruptly. It let out a few angry roars, then gradually retreated, seeping back into the ice lake. Whoosh! Suyu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, his heart pounding. That was close. If he had been a step slower, he would have ended up like the giant catfish. However, a faint cracking sound could be heard clearly. Suyu looked down, his heart sinking to the bottom of the valley. Around his legs, a weak, incredible, icy, raging flame was emitting a brilliant red glow. Chapter 175. Crack. A weak, fiery red light shot into the sky with an explosive force, transforming into 100 feet tall raging flame that engulfed Su Yu in an instant. Su Yu did not even have time to react and was frozen on the spot by the red ice. The fiery red cold energy penetrated the surface of his body, corroding his flesh and blood, attempting to turn Su Yu into ice. Although his body was frozen, Su Yu's mind was still intact. The shadow of death caused his heart to beat wildly, his blood flowing rapidly. If he did not resist, he would die here. I do not believe that I cannot deal with a shred of the incredible icy raging flame. Clenching his teeth, Su Yu let out a low grunt, the bluish-green ice flame surging out of his body. But, creak, a strange scene appeared. Su Yu's bluish-green ice flame, upon coming into contact with the incredible icy raging flame, melted like a snowflake, turning into a bluish-green smoke. The ice flame that he had cultivated for a long time turned into nothingness in an instant. I do not believe that I cannot deal with you. Su Yu did not have time to feel sorry for himself, frantically revolving all the spirit energy in his body to defend against the incredible icy raging flame. But the revolving spirit energy was like a clay ox entering the sea. The fiery red ice flame mercilessly entered Su Yu's body and began to destroy everything. Again. Su Yu shouted angrily in his heart, cooperating with the pressure of the small mountain. His blood vessels quickly revolved, mobilizing all the blood and spirit energy in his body. However, the profound ice raging flame, in a mocking manner, crushed all the resistance without any hindrance. The power of qi and blood and the power of spiritual qi couldn't even withstand a single blow, and were frozen into nothingness. A large amount of raging flame arrogantly invaded Su Yu's body. It invaded like there was no one around, robbing Su Yu of all his life force. From the surface of his body to his energy channels, from his energy channels to his flesh, from his flesh to his organs, and finally to Su Yu's icy heart. If his heart froze, everything would be over. The absolute suppression made Su Yu feel despair. He could feel that he was gradually walking into the abyss of death. Death had never been so clear and intense as it was in front of him. And today was the end of his life. At this moment, Su Yu recalled his life. Xianyu Prefecture, the imperial capital, the sanctuary, the Zhenlong continent. He had traveled too many paths and experienced too many people and things. But there were only 3 things that he could not let go of. Li Guang's revenge, Xian Er's life, and a woman had promised him that she would use her eyes to witness the wonders of the continent. The 3 things that he had yet to complete were the regrets that he couldn't make up for at this moment. If he died, who would avenge Li Guang? If he died, would Xian Er be sad? If he died, would Jingyu still persist in witnessing the wonders of the continent for him? His unwillingness and reluctance transformed into a bellyful of flames that burned his chest as if it wanted to turn him into ashes. How can I die here? Unfortunately, I, Su Yu, must not die. At that moment, the greedy, incredible, icy, raging flame had already forced its way into Su Yu's delicate, icy heart and was about to devour it in one bite. Su Yu had no way out. Are you the only one who knows how to swallow? Su Yu's eyes were ice-cold, his heart filled with the will to die in madness. With a furious roar, Su Yu made an incomprehensible movement. Her icy heart suddenly jumped, and suddenly swallowed the invading profound ice-raging flame. Such a terrifying ice flame would have instantly killed a Dragon Realm giant catfish. Su Yu taking the initiative to swallow it, was he seeking his own death? But the slightly intelligent, incredible icy raging flame froze for a moment, and then retreated in fear. The icy heart didn't hesitate at all, suddenly attacking and swallowing all the ice flames that were getting close. Creak, invisibly, there seemed to be a scream of terror. The incredible icy raging flame that had invaded Su Yu's body hurriedly retreated from his body, flying towards the ice lake. Su Yu's eyes were cold. Trying to escape? Whoosh! Su Yu's figure flashed, catching up to the ice lake. He grabbed a wisp of ice flame and stuffed it into his mouth, swallowing it on the spot. The ice flame entered his body, and the icy heart immediately swallowed it. The remaining ice flame drilled into the depths of the ice lake in fear. Su Yu laughed coldly. It's my turn to hunt you down. Creak! A divine ice thread, like a steel needle, pierced into the 10-meter thick layer of ice and chased after the remnant ice flame. Through the divine ice thread, it extracted it and absorbed it into his body, where it was swallowed by the icy heart. Whoosh whoosh, a strange scene ensued. This action caused the balls of fiery red, incredible icy raging flames to escape continuously. It was as if Su Yu was an unparalleled demon king. Ha ha ha! Su Yu let out a long roar. Divine ice ring! Creak, creak! Hundreds of divine ice threads pierced into the ice lake, frantically grabbing balls of incredible icy raging flames, extracting them from the ice lake. A series of terrified screams echoed from the souls of Qin Nan's disciples. The hundreds of divine ice threads were dyed red by the ice flame, as if the divine ice threads were absorbing fresh blood. In a short moment, Su Yu's body had absorbed an entire ball of incredible icy raging flames. As for Su Yu himself, his entire body was covered in ice. Closing his eyes, Su Yu continued to absorb the ice flame, and immediately started to cultivate the 3 ice-based cultivation techniques. Yun Yazi's leisurely expression finally revealed a gratified smile. You really did it. After thousands of years of accumulation, the incredible ice already has a weak spiritual nature. The stronger your will to resist, the more afraid it is. To be able to make it flee in fear, it shows how strong your rebellious intent is. Next, it will be time for you to transform into a dragon. How much your cultivation base can break through will depend on your luck. Yun Yazi muttered softly, waiting patiently. Time passed like water, quietly passing by. Half a month had passed. There was only 1 month left until the Xianyun contest. On this day, at the abyss of Wudong, a few elders of the faction arrived. The one leading them was the faction master, followed by the 2nd elder and the 10th elder. After receiving the report from Mo Wu and the other 5th-level holy kings that the abyss of Wudong had been attacked by the Empire of Darkness, a large number of 6th-level holy king disciples were captured, and the fate of the 4th elder was unknown. The faction was shocked and immediately headed over to investigate. Looking around at the empty abyss, the 3 of them had grave expressions. The faction master was anxious, his voice low and hoarse. The Empire of Darkness has already extended its tentacles into the territory of the Lucian faction? The 10th elder's face was filled with fear. The 4th elder's abilities were much stronger than his, but it was unknown whether he was alive or dead. The 2nd elder's voice was hoarse and ear-piercing. The most detestable person is indifferent to our request. Her words made the faction master's face turn gloomy. Previously, they had reported the invasion of the Empire of Darkness to the Alliance, requesting for the Alliance's strong martial artists to support them. However, the response they received was that the Empire of Darkness was restless in various parts of the continent, and the Alliance had no time to care about the remote Lucian faction. After a long while, the faction master said, "We can only save ourselves. Immediately search the surroundings to see if there is the whereabouts of the 4th elder." The faction spent a lot of money to nurture an elder, and they could not give up. The 2nd elder's eyes flashed, worry flashing in her pale eyes. From what Mo Wu said, Su Yu was not too far away, and she did not know if he was safe or not. 10 days later, the 3 of them met up again. With the abyss of Wudong as the center, they searched for hundreds of thousands of miles, but did not find any traces of the 4th elder. "I'm afraid he is in trouble." The faction master's face was gloomy, and he lightly sighed. After 10 days of searching, there were still no clues. The 3 of them were silent for a moment, and the faction master said helplessly, let's return to the faction. We cannot leave for too long in troubled times. As he spoke, he slightly glanced at the 10th elder, implying that they could not allow the great elder to guard the faction alone. Immediately after, the faction master asked the 2nd elder with concern, "You came out of seclusion early this time, how is your recovery?" The 2nd elder was the only one who could join forces with the faction master to fight against the great elder, so he naturally had to be concerned. However, he did not understand. It was said that the 2nd elder was prepared to go into seclusion for 3 months, but why did she come out of seclusion in just a month? The 2nd elder's voice was cold and hoarse. "Don't worry, I won't die." Hearing the 2nd elder's ungrateful words, the faction master was used to it. He smiled lightly and returned to the faction with the 2 of them. At that moment, at the mysterious ice divine lake, on the surface of the ice, there was a towering, fiery red ice mountain that was 1,000 feet tall. From afar, it looked like a burning volcano. Upon closer inspection, it was a red ice mountain. Furthermore, within the ice mountain, there was a figure sealed in ice, like a butterfly that was about to break out of its cocoon and be reborn. Yun Yazi slowly opened his eyes, his face filled with admiration. "Shocking willpower! I originally thought that you would be able to endure for half a month, but unexpectedly, after enduring for more than a month, you have been reborn, and your improvement is even greater than I expected." Crack, a weak sound resounded throughout the vast ice field. Within the fiery red ice mountain, the eyes of the sealed figure slowly opened. In an instant, countless mysterious flames and ice at the bottom of the lake fled in fear, causing the bottom of the lake to turn fiery red, as if the bottom of the lake was burning fiercely. Rumble, the 1,000 feet tall ice mountain also rumbled and shook. Immediately after, with a bang, it turned into countless ice shards, splattering into the sky. For a moment, countless fiery red ice shards fell like a rain of blood. A figure, surrounded by the rain of blood, floated down. As his silver hair fluttered, there was a fingernail-sized flame mark between his eyebrows. It was vivid and lifelike, like a real flame, lightly beating between his eyebrows. His 2 eyes occasionally flickered with a red light, demonic and mysterious. Coupled with his flowing silver hair and handsome face, he gave off a sense of evil charm. It was completely different from his previous indifferent temperament. Suyu looked up at the small mountain he was carrying on his back, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile. This smile was like a sinister smile, extremely sinister. "Elder, you can release your soul," Suyu calmly said. Yun Yazi nodded, waving his big sleeves. The small mountain, which was carrying 90% of its weight, fell with a rumble. But Suyu easily lifted it, casually extending his palm and lifting it up with just one hand. His expression was relaxed and leisurely, without any pressure. "Just so," Suyu smiled. To him, the small mountain was no more than an extremely heavy boulder, no longer able to crush it. Yun Yazi smiled, flicking his finger. At once, a gush of soul energy enveloped the small mountain once again. A shocking scene appeared. The small mountain shrunk at a speed visible to the naked eye, finally becoming the size of a palm. "Small mountain, I have already compressed it for you, the weight will not change. You can carry it with you, making it easier to walk." Suyu smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Elder." After saying this, he hung it around his waist with divine ice threads. Taking a light breath, Suyu looked in the direction of the Lucian faction, muttering, "Xianyun contest, I, Suyu, am coming." Chapter 176. Half a month later. In the Lucian faction, the hearts of the people wavered. Many disciples who had been in seclusion for a long time came out at this moment. Their minds were restless as they walked around. They were either sparring or exchanging experiences. The reason was simple. The Xianyun contest, which was held once every 5 years, was just around the corner. This was the grandest competition in the Lucian faction. Those who passed would have the qualifications to enter the rumored ancient Xianyun temple, and obtained shocking fortunes. Once upon a time, there was a 7th-level Holy King disciple who entered it and obtained countless opportunities. When she came out, she became a Dragon Realm Level 3 strong martial artist. Later on, she became an elder of the sect. She was the second elder of the sect. A person who had spent his entire life as a legend. And now, the ancient Xianyan temple, which was held once every 5 years, was about to descend. The opportunity for 20 people to fight for the sublimation was placed in front of them. Perhaps, this was their chance to reverse the situation and soar through the 9 heavens. Second Elder's Courtyard. Emowu bowed and stood behind her master, the second elder. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. Master, why did you come out of seclusion earlier than expected? Second Elder's injuries seemed to have worsened because he had come out early. The second elder's voice was like the sounds of nature, gentle and pleasant to listen to. I'm looking up some ancient books. Emowu was very intelligent. Ancient books? Is it about Qin Xian'er's phoenix of death bloodline? Yes. The second elder nodded slightly and did not explain further. However, his pale eyes were filled with doubt. She brought Qin Xian'er with her to go into seclusion just in case. However, during the process, she discovered that Qin Xian'er's phoenix of death bloodline was a little unusual. Therefore, she gave up on her seclusion and started reading ancient books. Emowu was jealous. Her teacher still favored Su Yu as usual. I hope he won't let down Master's good intentions, Emowu said. The second elder did not reply. Instead, she said gently, to you, the ancient Xianyan temple is a place of fortune. Hence, you must not be careless in the Xianyan contest tomorrow. I understand. I will definitely seize the opportunity, strive to break through, and obtain the qualifications to enter the alliance. When Emowu mentioned the word alliance, her heart trembled, and her eyes were unprecedentedly firm. The second elder sighed. I didn't accept you as my disciple out of selfishness. You don't have to cling to the alliance. Emowu was silent. Her eyes were as resolute as ever. The next day, the Xianyan contest, which everyone had been looking forward to, finally arrived. The sect leader, the 10 grand elders, the management, and all the inner disciples were all present. The grandeur of the scene was unprecedented. Emowu looked around and felt anxious. Su Yu was not there. Could it be that he couldn't make it back in time? Second elder's pale eyes were filled with worry. Su Yu had worked hard to enter the abyss of Wudong, survived, and obtained the opportunity to participate in the Xianyan contest. If he was late, it would be a pity. Since everyone is here, let's begin. The master of the Lucian faction announced the start of the assembly indifferently. The chief referee was Ruolan, the president of the External Affairs Hall. He flew to the center of the arena and announced the rules expressionlessly. The competition will be divided into 3 rounds. The first 2 rounds of the preliminaries, and the last round, the finals. In the first round of selection, the most outstanding person will be chosen from among the 6th-level Holy Kings, and he will successfully enter the next round of selection. There will only be 1 slot. Upon hearing this, all the 6th-level Holy Kings were shocked. Out of the hundreds of 6th-level Holy Kings, only 1 could enter the next round of selections. The brutality of the assessment made one speechless. As for the specific assessment method, the faction will send a 7th-level lower-tier Holy King to oversee the arena. The 6th-level Holy King disciples participating in the selection will spar with the 7th-level Holy King. The more moves the 6th-level Holy King can withstand, the more outstanding their results will be. Under the eyes of the higher-ups of the faction, it would be difficult to escape their eyes. Presumably, no one would dare to cheat. This was considered fair. 7th-level Holy King? Many 6th-level lower-tier Holy King contestants were speechless. I give up. Very quickly, many 6th-level lower-tier Holy Kings chose to give up after pondering for a moment. The gap between them and a 7th-level Holy King was too big. There was no benefit in going up on stage. It would be better to relax and observe the battle. This way their gains might be greater. As such, only 6th-level upper-tier Holy Kings and 6th-level peak Holy Kings were left with the intention to try. Shi Ruolan's expression was calm. Let's invite the deputy clan master of the Elixir Hall, Wu Bai, to oversee the arena. Wu Bai was around 50 years old. He had a pale face and a calm temperament. He stood behind the 5th elder and stood shoulder to shoulder with the 5th elder's eldest disciple, Wei Kong. Wu Bai was promoted by the 5th elder and was naturally familiar with his disciple, Wei Kong. Hearing this, Wei Kong cupped his fists and congratulated Wu Bai. Congratulations, Uncle Master Wu, for taking on the great responsibility of the faction. Wu Bai was also a little surprised. The selection of the candidates to oversee the arena was decided on the spot and was not informed in advance. With a face full of joy, Wu Bai flew to oversee the arena. Wei Kong had a faint smile on his face. He turned his head and said to a fat young man of level 6 peak martial path behind him, Lu Qian, remember to perform well later. Although Uncle Master Wu will not go easy on you in front of the higher-ups, you are very familiar with Uncle Master Wu's techniques. Compared to ordinary people, you have many advantages. You will definitely be able to withstand quite a few of his attacks. Lu Qian was the 2nd disciple of the 5th elder, and also Wei Kang's junior. His body was dark and fat like a stone puppet. However, his abilities were very strong. He was at 6th-level peak Holy King and was only a step away from 7th-level Holy King. Seeing that it was Uncle Master Wu who was overseeing the arena, the fat young man squeezed out an excited expression and nodded his head hurriedly. Yes, Senior Wei. Lu Qian rolled his eyes and said, if I meet Su Yu, I will definitely teach him a lesson on behalf of Senior. Senior has a high status and will not bother with such a small fry. However, Junior will not tolerate him flaunting his power in front of Senior. In the Forbidden Ruins, Su Yu had stolen Mo Wu's limelight many times in front of her. In addition, Mo Wu's protection of Su Yu had caused Wei Kong to burn with jealousy. Hearing this, Wei Kong nodded his head. Sure, but remember not to overdo it. After all, the higher-ups were present and they could not go overboard. Junior understands. The selection has begun. I will read out the names and you will come up to the arena one by one to spar. Shi Ruolan took out the name list and selected the candidates one by one. Ma Xiaoling, come up to the arena. Ma Xiaoling, a young female 6th-level upper-tier Holy King. Ma Xiaoling leaped up easily and flew up to the arena. She had a weak and shy personality. Biting her lips, Ma Xiaoling blushed and bowed. Uncle Master Wu, please show mercy. Wu Bai was calm, his expression gentle and calm. Make your move. Ma Xiaoling took a deep breath. 20 jade needles encircled her palm. Pardon me. Pear Blossom Storm. With a shout, Ma Xiaoling's temperament changed from weak to fierce. The 20 jade needles in her palm released a white fluorescent light. They were like pear blossoms. 20 flowers clustered around each other. It was beautiful. However, as Ma Xiaoling flipped her palm, the pear blossoms were filled with murderous intent. They were like a torrential downpour, heading straight for Wu Bai. Under the fluorescent light of the pear blossoms, the jade needles were hidden and it was difficult to discern their trajectory. Wu Bai's expression was normal. He smiled and commented, "The hidden weapons are well trained and contain illusions. It would be difficult for an ordinary person to defend against them. However, hidden weapons are used when the enemy is unprepared. In a direct confrontation, their power would be greatly reduced." As he spoke, he raised his palm and tapped the air with his 5 fingers. Creak, creak. The pear blossoms were destroyed one by one. The hidden jade needles fell to the ground one by one, letting out a crisp sound. Immediately after, he flicked his finger. A bolt of powerful spirit energy attacked Ma Xiaoling's body. A strong gust of wind blew her off the arena. Ma Xiaoling, 1 move. Shi Rulan announced calmly and recorded. Second, Zhang Feiping. Zhang Feiping was a 6th-level upper-tier holy king. He was good at light body technique. However, just like Ma Xiaoling, he was defeated in 1 move the moment he stepped onto the arena. Third, Huang Bing. I admit defeat. After watching 2 battles, many 6th-level upper-tier holy kings chose to give up. The difference between them and Wu Bai was too great. It would be difficult for them to defend against 1 move. Fourth, admit defeat. Fifth, most of the 6th-level upper-tier holy kings gave up. Those who persisted were all defeated in 1 move. 100th, Luo Tianxiang. Luo Tianxiang was a 6th-level peak holy king. He was good at light body technique and fire path. He was strong in both offense and defense. Among the 6th-level peak holy kings, he was considered a veteran. He had experienced many dangerous situations and was experienced in battles. Whoosh, flying across the arena, Luo Tianxiang was full of fighting spirit. Uncle Wu, I'm sorry. Magnificent waves. Luo Tianxiang circled around Wu Bai and walked quickly. Afterimages surrounded Wu Bai. It was difficult to distinguish the afterimages with one's naked eye. Looking from afar, Wu Bai seemed to have fallen into layers of waves and was surrounded. Burning sun fire. Luo Tianxiang's afterimages spat out fire. The fiery red flames came from all directions and shot at Wu Bai, causing him to sink into a sea of fire. Wu Bai's expression was slightly grave, but he was still relaxed. It is a combination of body movement and attack, compatible and smooth. However, its weakness is that it is not outstanding in both aspects. Hence, it is mediocre overall. After his speech, he shot out spiritual energy from his 10 fingers and destroyed the flames in all directions. Luo Tianxiang's expression changed. He activated his body movement technique again and got close to Wu Bai for close combat. However, Wu Bai easily saw through Luo Tianxiang's trajectory and hit his shoulder blade with his palm, sending him out of the arena. Luo Tianxiang withstand 2 moves. Shi Rulan nodded slightly. After all, Wu Bai was a 6th-level peak holy king. It was not bad for him to force Wu Bai to make a second move. Next, dozens of 6th-level peak holy kings went up one after another. However, there were only a few who could withstand 2 moves. Last one, Lu Qian. Whoosh, a dark and plump figure flew up the arena. It was Wei Kang's junior Lu Qian, a 6th-level peak holy king. Although he was plump, his abilities were not bad. He was also a veteran 6th-level peak holy king. It was said that he had once fought with Luo Tianxiang and defeated him within 30 moves. Uncle Wu, I'm sorry. Lu Qian's eyes flashed as he suddenly attacked. He was most proficient in close combat fist techniques. Big Dipper 7-star fist. Lu Qian punched out with both of his fists. In a few breaths' time, he had punched out 7 times. Shi Rulan's eyes were filled with admiration. Level 1 top class of legacy level cultivation technique. He is only a step away from level 2. Wu Bai's expression turned grave and a helpless look appeared on his face. He often sparred with Lu Qian. Hence, Lu Qian naturally understood Wu Bai's weakness. That was close combat. Rumble, Wu Bai was slightly cautious. Although he used his absolute abilities to repel Lu Qian relied on his experience from sparring with Wu Bai. However, Lu Qian used his experience from sparring with Wu Bai to dodge first and used his fist technique to neutralize part of the attack. Hence, he withstood the attack at the cost of a light injury. Again, Lu Qian's eyes were filled with excitement. It looked like he would be the only one to be selected. Lu Qian had his way after 3 tries. Although he was knocked off the arena by Wu Bai in the end, he had successfully withstood 4 moves. Shi Rulan nodded her head in satisfaction. Lu Qian, you withstood 4 moves. Your results are the most outstanding. Mo Wu was anxious. The first round of the assessment was about to end, but Su Yu had yet to return. The second elder creased her brows. If that was the case, all of Su Yu's previous efforts would have been in vain. I announce that the first round of the assessment has ended. The winner is Lu. However, at that moment, a beam of fiery red light pierced through the sky. It was like a burning meteorite, flickering deep within the clouds. Everyone could only catch a glimpse of what seemed to be a flash of red lightning within the thick layers of clouds. Then, everything returned to normal. Many people thought it was an illusion. However, a giant vortex suddenly appeared within the thick layers of clouds. From within the vortex, a ball of fiery red flames fell rapidly like a meteorite. Chapter 177. Fiery red flames fall from the arena. The arena shook. The arena shook with a loud rumble. Even the ground trembled slightly. Lu Qian staggered and almost fell to the ground, his eyes filled with surprise. The sudden descent of the red light caused an uproar. Looking over, the center of the arena had caved in and broken rocks were flying everywhere. A fiery red figure stood quietly on the spot. Unique silver hair and a handsome face. Many people immediately recognized this disciple, who was rather famous in the faction. Su Yu. He had only been in the faction for half a year, but he had created one miracle after another. But many people felt that he was unfamiliar. Especially those who were familiar with Su Yu. Mo Wu raised her brows, her eyes filled with surprise and unfamiliarity. After a month and a half, Su Yu's aura was completely different. The blood-red mark on his brows was like a cluster of flames. It was lifelike, as if it was a real flame, giving people a deep sense of evil. Paired with his fluttering silver hair, his aura was extremely evil. Is that the rumored Su Yu? He looks scary, but also very charming. Among the disciples, a young lady blushed as she muttered softly. Not only did his evil aura not cause disgust, it added to his mystery and made him even more attractive. Mo Wu creased her brows. She did not know why, but she felt an indescribable pressure from Su Yu. As she observed, her beautiful eyes revealed a rare look of surprise. Her red lips parted slightly as she gasped, "Sixth level peak Holy King? He could break through just by drinking water?" The second elder's pale eyes were filled with admiration and affection. It is not just his cultivation level, there is a strong pressure on his body. It is intentional. In the past, the second elder had said that Su Yu was not fated to enter the ancient Xianyun temple. The difficulties and desperation were indescribable. But now, Su Yu had gone against the flow and reached this day. At the same time, she felt even more affection for this little guy. Su Yu's return caused a series of commotion. Shirulan creased her brows, her expression cold. "There is no place for you in the Xianyun contest, step down." Su Yu looked over calmly. His gaze caused Shirulan's heart to beat wildly, a strong sense of unease welling up in her heart. "Do you have the right to decide if I have a place in the contest?" Su Yu's gaze was like a sharp arrow, piercing through Shirulan. Shirulan's body swayed slightly, almost retreating from his gaze. His heart was filled with shock. Half a year ago, he was chased by her and had to flee in panic. It was Li Guang who sacrificed his life for her and the Li family who protected him that allowed him to live. He used to be like an ant, but today, he made her feel fearful? The second elder's hoarse and dry voice resounded on the spot. "There are 10 places in the abyss of Wudong. The rest of the disciples have been captured, leaving only Su Yu. Naturally, there will be a place for him." The Lucian faction master nodded his head lightly and did not have any objections. Although the great elder and the 10th elder frowned slightly, they did not refute him. Since the higher-ups had made the decision, Shirulan had no choice but to retract her hostility and nod her head coldly. "All right, you can give it a try. I don't need to explain the rules. When facing a 7th-level Holy King, the more moves you can withstand, the more outstanding your result will be. Currently, the highest result is withstanding 4 moves. With that, Shi Rulan's gaze drifted to Lu Qian, who was at the side. You go down first and wait for him to finish his challenge. Lu Qian frowned slightly, glaring at Su Yu with dissatisfaction. Why do you want it? In any case, he'll be defeated in one move. Although he had noticed that Su Yu's cultivation had increased drastically, who could break the record of him withstanding 4 strikes? However, even though he was dissatisfied, Lu Qian still obeyed and walked down the arena. When he passed by Su Yu, he gave a cold hum. What a waste of time! Su Yu turned a deaf ear to Lu Qian. His eyes did not even have a shadow of Lu Qian. His gaze calmly landed on Wu Bai. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first? Many disciples secretly shook their heads. Su Yu is very confident. He actually has the guts to let Uncle Master Wu go first. If that's the case, there's no more suspense in this match. Since Uncle Master Wu goes first, Su Yu will not have the chance to attack. A few 7th-level holy kings leisurely crossed their arms as they observed the match. Among them, a tall and pretty lady shook her head slightly and sighed softly. Humph! I've long heard that Su Yu is arrogant and conceited. Now that I've seen him, it's indeed true. Beside the pretty lady, a white-faced scholar had a disdainful and hostile gaze. Haha, Senior Long Fan, I've already heard about Junior Yang Fan. The recruitment examination of the Abyss of Wudong was a fair match. Junior Yang Fan could not defeat Su Yu, and his slot to the Abyss of Wudong was snatched away. Senior Long Fan, why must you vent your anger on others? After hearing what was said, Long Fan's gaze turned cold and he gave a cold hum. Yao Hong, are you talking to me? The lady named Yao Hong's lips trembled slightly. Her eyes were filled with fear, and she shut her mouth resentfully. Deep down, she felt indignant. Long Fan was the eldest disciple of the 4th elder, a 7th-level peak holy king. Yang Fan was the 2nd disciple. As for Yang Fan's character, Yao Hong found it hard to compliment him. She had heard about the incident where he forced a married woman from the faction to submit to him. Later on, Yang Fan was injured by Su Yu in front of everyone. That female disciple was then freed from his evil clutches. As a senior, it was inevitable for Long Fan to harbor resentment toward Su Yu. Humph! A small fry like him, being able to withstand 2 moves from Wu Bai is his limit, wasting the resources of the Abyss of Wudong for no reason. However, what happened next in the arena caused his words to stop abruptly. Being stared at by Su Yu's calm gaze, Wu Bai revealed a struggling expression and did not dare to attack for a long time. Finally, he let out a bitter smile and cupped his fist. I admit defeat. After his speech, Wu Bai walked down the arena in front of countless dumbfounded people. Even Shi Rulan was slightly stunned by the unexpected scene. Wait, your mission is to test the abilities of all the disciples. What do you mean by admitting defeat? Shi Rulan voiced out to stop him. Wu Bai turned his head and let out a bitter smile. Clan Master Shi, I do not have the right to test Su Yu's abilities because he is way above me. Only when he was facing Su Yu could he feel the mountain-like pressure. When he was standing in front of Su Yu just now, although Su Yu did not attack, Wu Bai felt as if he was facing a landslide. His instincts told him that if Su Yu were to attack, it would definitely be a landslide. That kind of absolute suppression caused Wu Bai to clearly understand that he was far from being Su Yu's opponent. His reply caused the entire arena to sink into dead silence. Su Yu actually had the abilities to defeat Wu Bai? If that was the case, the strongest 6th-level Holy King, the only place to be selected, belonged to Su Yu? The sudden reversal caused many people to be unable to react in time. Long Fan turned slightly stiff and shook his head. Impossible! Although Wu Bai's abilities are weak, how could he be caught up by that small fry? There were countless people who had the same thoughts as him. Many people even doubted if the test was fair. Wu Bai admitted defeat on the spot without a fight. There were many tricks involved. However, the faction master and the 10 elders did not refute Long Fan. Shirulan could only crease her brows and announce indifferently. The first round of selection has ended. The winner is Su Yu. Compared to Lu Qian, he had only withstood 4 moves. However, Su Yu had the abilities to defeat Wu Bai. It was obvious who was stronger. Lu Qian was stunned. He finally reacted at that moment. Wait. I cannot accept this. Lu Qian jumped onto the arena and his face was filled with anger. Without a fight, how could he obtain the only place to be selected? Shirulan said indifferently, "Are you doubting me?" "No, I am doubting him." Lu Qian shot his gaze towards Su Yu and extended his hand to point at Su Yu's nose. "I challenge you." Su Yu's expression was calm. As if he did not hear Lu Qian, he turned around and walked down the arena. Being ignored, Lu Qian became even more furious. He clenched his teeth. "Su Yu, don't be so arrogant. Take this. Big Dipper 7 stars fist." Lu Qian closed in and attacked Su Yu's back. Mo Wu's expression changed. "Su Yu, be careful." Yao Hong creased her brows. "A sneak attack? You are really capable." "Humph. Since he is insolent, he must pay the price for his insolence." Long Fan's eyes were filled with joy at Su Yu's misfortune. Lu Qian's sneak attack was sudden and obscure. He did not give Su Yu any time to react. The force of the fist hit Su Yu's back without any obstruction. Seeing that his sneak attack was successful so easily, Lu Qian laughed coldly. "You are only at such a weak level." Rumble, his fist finally hit Su Yu's back. However, at the moment when his fist came into contact with Su Yu's back, on the surface of Su Yu's back, a weak fiery red light appeared. It was like a lump of small flame. However, when Lu Qian collided with such an inconspicuous small flame, his expression turned stiff abruptly. With a horrible shriek, Lu Qian suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood contained a dense amount of cold energy. It turned into blood-colored ice fragments and sprinkled all over the place. As for his body, it was as if he had suffered an unprecedentedly huge force and he was sent flying several hundred meters away. From the arena, he crashed into the spectator seats. Rumble, bang, dust billowed from the spectator seat. The hard bluestone ground caved in out of nowhere. Lu Qian's mouth was full of blood and he was half dead. His internal organs were shattered and many of his bones were fractured. Especially his right fist, which had launched a sneak attack. His flesh was torn into pieces and his white bones had turned into powder. If there were no accidents, his right hand would have been crippled. "Hiss, Su Yu, he. What did he do?" It was obvious that Lu Qian had launched a sneak attack. However, Su Yu did not even turn his head. To be precise, he did not care about Lu Qian at all. Not to mention being injured, not even a single strand of his hair was harmed. However, someone as strong as Lu Qian was crippled. The huge contrast between before and after caused everyone to gasp. Wu Bai's scalp turned numb and he rejoiced. The recoil was already so frightening. If he had taken the initiative to attack, then... Thinking about this, Wu Bai swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Yao Hong's beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. Long Fan was also stunned for a moment. His expression turned gloomy. "Little bastard. Your abilities have improved very quickly. In the past, Su Yu could only barely win against Yang Fan. At the very moment, he was so powerful. The change between before and after was as if he was a completely different person. Under everyone's gaze, Su Yu's expression was calm as he walked down the arena quietly. His devilishly handsome face and strange silver hair became the only scenery in everyone's eyes. Shirulan looked at Su Yu deeply. A strange expression flashed deep within her eyes. The first round of selection has ended. Su Yu has successfully entered the next round of selection. Rest for 2 hours and prepare for the second round of selection. After her speech, the audience at the spectator seats started to whisper among themselves. They were all discussing the fight just now. Su Yu's soul-stirring fight had shocked too many people. They were all guessing Su Yu's true abilities. The main character that they were talking about walked quickly to the front of the second elder. Her ugly but familiar figure was reflected in his eyes. His heart was filled with gratitude. "Greetings to second elder. How are your injuries?" Seeing that it was him, the second elder put on a fierce expression out of habit. "None of your business." Su Yu found it funny. After which, his expression turned serious. "Second elder, how is Siener? Why didn't she come forward?" "Don't worry, she won't die." The second elder let out a cold hum. Mo Wu sighed helplessly. "You don't have to worry. Teacher has taught Siener a few cultivation techniques, and given her a few elixirs. She is currently training, and will come out in 2 months. 2 months later, Siener's phoenix of death would descend completely. Whether she lived or died depended on this moment.